Eric Momsen, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll start as soon as Omar hits the record.
You're on your grid. You're on your grid.
Oh, I'm on the air. Okay, sorry. Okay, hi everyone. This is round 2 of the 2010 World Championship Final. The game just started 20 seconds ago. We have chessandgo Daligault with the gold pieces and Karl Juhnke with the silver pieces. Commentating today, I'm Greg Magne along with Eric Momsen and Omar Syed. So chessandgo was discussing in the chat room earlier today. He wasn't sure how he was going to set up. He's just gone with the 99 of 9 setup, balanced forces. So Fritzlein, historically he's always put his camel on one side, 2 horses on the other types of setups. This is the 10th championship meeting between these two players. The 9th was in the Open Classic just a few weeks ago. Fritzlein has a 5-4 lifetime winning advantage, but the first game was a 5-move timeout. So if you ignore that game, they're even at 4 games apiece so far. Fritzlein's going into thought here. It'll be kind of interesting today to see what the strategies will be for the two players. Fritzlein's been experimenting with some new ideas, but he's never tried his new warning ideas against chessandgo. He's tried attacking, but he's got some new camel and rabbit swarms that he's attempted against some other players. He might be trying a surprise opening against chessandgo, or he might just decide that he's going to stick with what's worked for him in the past. He's generally had pretty good openings against. This looks like, the one surprise Fritzlein's tried is he's put his elephant on the f7 square, and he's put a rabbit on d7. That indicates that Fritzlein has indeed tried a surprise opening. He's going to probably attack very aggressively. Usually the 7 rabbit indicates that's something like blue 22 would try. A very, very aggressive attack with the elephant coming straight down the f-file in the opening. This will be really interesting. Fritzlein, he's obviously put a lot of thought into this game for weeks. He's in the Open Classic, he probably didn't want to reveal his secret strategy. He probably wanted to save it for the most meaningful game. So here, now revealed that he's going to try something experimental. So on the 2G move, chessandgo's elephant looks like he might be attacking a d7 rabbit. Camel has moved over to the d2 square. No, sorry. The camel didn't move. The elephant's just moving after the d7 rabbit. And we'll see what Fritzlein tries here. The idea is that... Sorry?
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen Fritzlein use this kind of opening before.
No, I was wondering if he was going to experiment with a new setup today, and it looks like he is. The idea with leaving the rabbit there on d7 is that you're hoping the gold elephant will use so many moves pulling the rabbit down that it'll give the silver pieces enough time to build up their attack. And then maybe he'll try to transfer that rabbit as it gets pulled down, shift it over to the east side as part of the attack on the east.
It seems that pulling rabbits is a mid-range and mid-level strategy that many of the top players seem to move past into aggressive attack. So definitely, I would be surprised if chessandgo goes for a point against Fritzlein.
Chessandgo's, when he started out, he was an attacking player, and then when people learned to defend against his elephant and horse attacks, what he would start to do is move a horse up the wing, and if he couldn't get the elephant horse attack, he'd pull the rabbit down and try to get a quick rabbit advantage. Now he's probably a little surprised. It'll be interesting to see how he responds. He obviously knows that Fritzlein has a surprise opening in mind that he's going to try to attack aggressively. So on 3G, he hasn't committed yet to the rabbit pull. The gold elephant went to square. He might be thinking, I'm wondering if he's thinking that if the camel moves to 6 on the 3S move, but the 7 square is left empty, he might try to quickly get the horse onto the c7 square, but that wouldn't work at all. So he left his 3 square empty. Now Fritzlein can move the horse from g6 down to g3. elephant on the f3 square. No, he wouldn't. He could take that extra step to just put his camel on b. Oh, for chessandgo might also be thinking of camel moves to b6. He might move his elephant across to b6 and push the five. It would be a very sharp opening. Yeah. Fritzlein, if he wants to be much more careful, he could just put his camel on b6, dog on 6, and rabbit on c7. That would at least prevent any kind of camel push to b5. But of course that introduces new problems if dog gets pulled south. Fritzlein can make this a really sharp game by bringing his horse down to g3. I don't know if he wants to get into that type of game.
It certainly looks like what he intended to do with the opening. And chessandgo certainly invited him to do it, and he did.
He did. Wow, so now chessandgo has a major decision here. So his options are he can move his horse right up to c7. The horse couldn't be immediately taken hostage, and it would be a bit of a dangerous attack temporarily, but that looks dangerous to attack right into the heart of a camel defense. If he wants to play more solidly, he could put pieces on f3 and f2, play a bit there. But he's got two different attacking options. Got at least a couple of different defending options. He has to think about too what he wants to do with his horse on g2. It's like a cat on e3, cat on f3, and rabbit on f2. His horse is a little bit out of the play, and his camel's not well positioned either. So maybe before he goes for the attack, he'll want to reposition defenders here. What do you guys think?
This is totally a different sort of a game than anything I've seen before. I've never seen both players being like this aggressive ever before. You know, especially if now chessandgo decides to get his horse over on c7. That would be wild. I mean, right from the get-go, you know, you'd have like both players fighting for control over multiple traps. You know. And I don't think I've seen it build up to this so quickly ever before.
Right, I think this is how chessandgo, when he started playing Arimaa, this is how he liked to play, but then he became a little more defensive when he had difficulty. A very determined defensive player can fight off an elephant and horse attack, but I guess Fritzlein's obviously planned this well in advance. He's been thinking of how to break his long losing streak against Go, and obviously he's decided to come up with a very sharp opening tactic. This is tough to think about over the board. I mean, you don't want that gold horse being stuck on the g2 square for too long. Both the cats on f3 and a rabbit on f2, it'll make it a bit tough for the camel to join on the east side. And you can just think about immediately attacking that c7 square with his horse, hoping to, because then cat is taken on the f2 square on that 4s move, then immediately he could take a dog in return. That does seem a little wild to attack a horse right into 7 square. Good work though, because with the elephant on the southeast side and more gold pieces available to come into the northwest, and attack against that camel.
chessandgo has been thinking quite a bit here, unless I missed it.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, he's definitely deep into his reserve now. Only like a minute and 30 seconds or so left.
I'd even put a camel on the f3 square. The only problem is that the camel would get flipped to f5. If it was a piece on f7, at least he could capturing it on the next move, but there's nothing really for the camel to do on f5. Well, let's see if he's able to get flipped to f5. Yeah, I guess it could be rescued. The other thing that chessandgo could do is if he just moves the cat from f2 to e2, he's temporarily stopped all threats against his trap. The problem is by using one step on the southeast quadrant, he only has 3 steps left for the northwest, and 3 steps isn't enough to generate a real attack yet. If he wants to attack, he has to use all 4 steps in the north. It'll be interesting in the post-game to see what's going through his mind on this 4G. He's got to be thinking, well, the three main options are to push the camel to B5. That's a very slow move because you're already losing material on the 4S move. So he's going for it. So the horse is attacking 7 square on 4G. Again, if this were a slower attack, you wouldn't want to do that because you'd be worried that the horse would eventually be taken hostage and the elephant would come back to defend. But with the elephant committed to the southeast quadrant, that elephant, for example, came back to the 5 square right now. The gold camel would just come over to F3, and then all their forces are overextended. So the elephant can't help out, and with no elephant help out in the northwest, we'll see. So the first thing Fritzlein might consider doing is just a full-scale trade. Trade a cat, and then use one step to move the camel out of the way. Then you would lose the dog in return, so you know. Fritzlein's made the more prudent decision. He's not going to start the fireworks just yet until he gets a more favorable position. So the F4S move is to put the rabbit on C5. I think that was the wise move. He had traded cat for dog. He's already down material. He had no follow-up there if he had taken the cat. Fritzlein has 550 left in reserve, and chessandgo has 319 right now. Already thought for 35 seconds on his 5G move. So, well, if he can bring in another piece, if he ever brings up another piece to the 5 square, he'll want to push the rabbit east to D5. If he just wouldn't want to push that rabbit onto the trap, of course, because then his elephant would camel, but he can't do that right away. It's too many moves. If he wants to immediately create a threat, he'd have to bring maybe his horse down to C5, push the rabbit to C4. That way he'd have immediate double threats against the rabbit and a double. Wow, that was a creative move on 5G. So chessandgo is offering a dog sacrifice, but of course that dog sacrifice would immediately lose the horse. So the threat is that chessandgo can't have his piece captured, and the dog is threatening to push the rabbit to D5 on the next move, threatening the camel. So Fritzlein obviously doesn't want that old horse to get to the G3 square. He might think of pushing that horse, the camel, west to E3. That would again threaten the cat. Then on the 6G move, then the dog would probably take a step forward, rabbit to D5, and then at least a step to defend the gold camel.
Now on this move, Fritzlein could grab that the gold horse with his camel and pull it over to B7 now, right? So that, I mean, if he does that, you know, most likely then the gold dog will flip that rabbit, and you know, you lose a rabbit there. You think that's a viable option there, Greg?
But it is interesting. Yeah, because the rabbit can be safely taken on the next move, and then it's still the same issue where you can't take that dog. Oh, that was a good move by Fritzlein. Yeah, I think I would try to take that C5 rabbit. On 5S, the camels move to C7, where it's a very much more safely positioned, and the horse can't easily participate in the attack anytime soon. There's still that option to just take the C5 rabbit, and of course the problem is that the free horse would then be exposed. Very, very sharp opening. I think I would do that. I would take the rabbit right now. Problem is that there's not really a good follow-up. I mean, temporarily has a safe dog, but the problem is that the silver counterattack comes faster than the gold counterattack.
If he just takes the rabbit, the camel can be pushed aside, and he wouldn't have anybody to defend that destiny trap anymore.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. And that's the problem, and there's no easy way for gold to continue his attack. So, well, I guess what ordinarily, well, I guess the first thing he has to do is maybe try to get his camel over to the G, where the problem is that the camel would then be immediately up to the G, where that doesn't help. So you have to prepare it. Often what you do is put the camel on the f3 square, put a piece on the camel could be flipped to f5 with nothing to do.
You're breaking out there, Greg.
Okay. Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I was just saying that the camel often tries to move to f3 or g3 in these situations, but it wouldn't have worked in either case. In either case, the elephant could have attacked the gold camel. So chessandgo has flipped. He's taken the early material lead here on 6g, but like Eric said, that this doesn't look good for gold at all, because I think the logical follow-up now is to just push the camel west, and that's a very powerful attack against the trap. Gold's attack is a bit slower because of that b7 horse that's now out of play and the strong c7 camel. It's a matter of positioning. The silver camel is well positioned with the gold horse out of play, while the silver g3 horse is well positioned and the gold horse can be put away. That silver rabbit that's been captured is a minor factor compared to the positional threats that Magne has here. Might even, instead of pushing the camel west, he also could consider pushing it south to e2. That leaves the dog hanging there. Or that's not a big concern. I think the bigger concern, though, is maybe to keep the camel out of play. So maybe it's better just to push the camel west to keep it far away from the action as possible.
So if Fritzlein decides to do that on this move, do you think the only alternative that he decides to push it down, but yeah, so the only alternative there would I guess be to lose a piece then or something, huh? For chessandgo?
Might just think of giving up his cat on this move. If he just puts a rabbit on h3, then if the cat's captured, then he can use a few steps next turn to move his... If on 7g he puts his h2 rabbit on h3, then on the next move he'll have room to move his horse to h2. At least got some kind of defensive hopes again on the f3 square, but that would involve a cat sacrifice. So in the meantime, I guess if he wants to play aggressively, what he could do is put a dog on c5 and put his work. He kind of has a free move here. If he's just going to sacrifice his cat on 7g and then try to get his camel over to g2 on the hg move, which I think might work, then there's basically a free move for his cat sacrifice, so he can do whatever he wants. But if I was a dog there on c4, I would immediately fix, but the dog doesn't really have much strength.
So maybe in this situation, you think scattering the pieces around from f3 might be of any help instead of like letting the cat go?
I don't know if he can. I
mean, the cat still wouldn't be able to get away. I think
I don't think. Oh no, you're right. He could move his camel to c2 and his cat to d2.
Oh yeah, right. It can slip past that elephant going that side, and then of course the horse is at least temporarily safe.
Right. I mean, the problem though is that that's only a one-move delaying threat. Problem is that the gold elephant is still tied to the defense of the gold horse, so no gold elephant to come to f4 or to f3. He really has to think of something that's like a sustainable defense. And I still like the idea of if the f2 cat disappears, the animal can get over to the g. So
yeah, so
he's listening to Omar.
Yeah, I mean, at least it buys him one move without losing anything, and it's probably not a good place for the camel to be moving away from that horse, but still, at least he's not losing something.
Right, so now chessandgo on it, he might be thinking of now, I don't know if he wants to bring that camel up to the b6 square eventually. He fought for 225, so he's not just thinking of a one-move tactic. He has to think beyond the one move. So he might have given up ideas of having his camel on the g2 square. Maybe he wants to bring his camel up to the square. But I think the problem is that if he does that, then that silver elephant can now come back to c5, and there's no threat against the g3 horse can stay there as a powerful piece. But really, that's worth far more, I think, than the lost silver rabbit. Right now, gold's got the material advantage, but I'd much rather have silver's position. That one extra rabbit. So the real question now is going to be that gold camel. I mean, it can help in the attack on b6, but that g3 horse, if it can just stand there, a very, very powerful long-term advantage for silver. Now, Fritzlein's been thinking for a minute and a half here on his 7s move. Can I consider putting his elephant on f2, where it simultaneously threatens the horse and the rabbit? And I don't think there's any defense against that. So it doesn't look like it would just be a scatter and move the horse out of the way. Yeah, I don't think he could protect the rabbit on f1. Sorry. This is a very interesting opening. Fritzlein obviously put a lot of thought into what he wanted to do to break his losing streak against Fritzlein. He danced with the brand new opening, and it's worked wonders, I think, so far. Really good position for silver. Well, with 2 steps, I think the best 2 steps are just to put the elephant on f2. The question is, can he use those extra 2 steps that he has to defend? Ordinarily, you'd want to put a piece on c6, but you don't want to do that here because that's c6. What he can do here.
So it looks like maybe chessandgo is thinking of using the camel to help invade c6 now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I don't know if that's a good strategy because the problem is that silver's got that strong g3 horse, and there'd be nothing to fight against it. I guess the only long-term hope would be to get the camel to b6, somehow free the horse eventually, and then if the horse, dog, and camel can fight for c6, that would free the gold elephant to later fade out. Unless he can rotate that gold elephant out of the d square eventually, the gold camel moving to b, just inviting a major attack for silver against the f3 quadrant, like the southeast quadrant.
Oh, he goes for that. Oh.
Did he make his move?
Yeah, he just made 9G.
Oh, we're on 9G?
Yep.
Okay,
you might have missed a move or two. Yeah, just do a reload. But, yeah, I mean, see, the way he did it, 9G put the camel on c5. I was thinking that he would put it on b6, as you were suggesting, by pushing the dog to a6. But now I think on this move, couldn't Fritzlein just go and capture the dog on c3 and then be able to exchange camels then?
I haven't reloaded mine. I'm just it'll take me a couple minutes.
Yeah, I was originally thinking this, guarantees the camel capture, but like you pointed out on there, if he just pushes the dog in, it's going to get really messy.
Yeah, I was thinking for chessandgo, it might have been better to have his camel on b6.
With the camel on b6, Fritzlein could have just had a time to bring the elephant over and then tie everything at the back corner and have his horses down at f3, without a challenge. So I think chessandgo was trying to prevent the silver elephant from being able to take over that spot at c5.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're getting at. But except that, it leaves that dog on c3 hanging, and Fritzlein can capture that dog, and then, of course it takes him 4 steps to do that, and then the camels could be traded. So I'm sure it'd probably be a better exchange for Fritzlein if he goes ahead and captures the dog on c4. Greg, were you able to reload?
Oh, it's not reloading for some reason. I'll try again. Just give me a couple minutes.
Okay, no problem.
So not sure yet.
Right, but he's definitely Fritzlein has definitely moved closer to being able to do that. Wow, what a strange opening here, and you know, strange positions too. I mean, I haven't seen a game being this sharp this early on. This is amazing. So right now, I think chessandgo could capture that dog, passing the camel through c6, and of course, I think Fritzlein would then capture the dog on c4. So that keeps the camel safe. So they both be, you know, rabbit for rabbit and dog for dog.
I think it's easy enough for him to protect his own trap, but he's not about to start trading dogs at this point. That'd be my guess.
You think it might be better off for him to just cover c3 and make some well, try to hold off on the trades yet, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think either of these players are going to just take trades and they have other options.
Yeah, I mean, the game is much more complex and you know, difficult if the players don't trade off quickly. That leaves them a lot of tactical options. Yeah, so chessandgo's thinking for quite a while here again. Hope I haven't missed any move. You're still on waiting for 10G, right, Namro?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing what you suggested. He's covered c3 and brought the horse over to safeten up f3. So that sort of leaves Fritzlein in a situation where he now has to decide whether he wants to go back to f3 with the elephant or keep the elephant around c6 probably.
In the past, Fritzlein was always talked about having his horse, his camel and his elephant operating on opposite wings, and right now we have all four, both horses, both elephants and both camels operating almost around the same trap.
Right. So I don't know if he'll opt to get the elephant back over to f3. I mean, I was just thinking one thing that Fritzlein could do right now is you know, bring the camel to b6, pulling the horse to b7, and move a rabbit up or over to c7, and then also on that unfrozen dog could step over to a5. So he could just sort of safeten up c6 now. Okay, so it looks like he kind of did that, except he also moved the elephant further west, pushing the dog back. So that freezes the camel, so it can't go further into Silver's side.
Yeah, I wonder if he's thinking about a dog elephant attack down in C3.
Ah, yeah, that's a possibility. And that horse, there's only one horse that chessandgo has available, and I think that horse is going to be tied up around F3. So a dog-elephant attack around C3 looks very possible. So perhaps maybe chessandgo could bring the elephant across C6, push the camel back up to B7. Also, if he moves the horse up, that would have allowed him to get the horse out of there. So instead he advances more material forward. That's typically what I've noticed these top players do is, you know, if things look like they can't decide what to do, they basically move more material forward. Well, it looks like we've lost Adnak for quite a while here. I wonder if he's having some connection problems or something.
Yeah, he mentioned in the chat room that he was having problems getting connected to the game. Looks like chessandgo was also concerned about the dog attack. He's moved his own dog over to take that spot there to prevent easy access to the C3 trap.
Okay, looks like chessandgo has decided to threaten the camel now. So the gold camel is in threat of being captured in F6, but that might just appear more dangerous than it really is. But I think this might actually be maybe a good thing for chessandgo, because he can unfreeze it right now and then bring it back towards F3, which I think is where he'd actually like that camel to be.
I'm a little surprised by that move, because that definitely allows him to bring the camel over to attack the horses.
Yeah, and with that other horse on the A file being you know, not under threat immediately, chessandgo can take, you know, even like 3 moves with the camel and bring it all the way into, say, like F3. And, you know, not have to worry about bringing that elephant back over to cover the C6 trap.
Hi guys, I'm back.
Hey Greg.
Right, yeah. So since I've left, the game's moved significantly in chessandgo's favor, it seems. Now that gold camel can counterattack in the southeast.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying, is this last move by Fritzlein looked a little strange, because this is kind of like, you know, it looks scary that that camel could be captured, but, you know, we were just saying that what if he just instead brings that camel back to F3? You know, that might actually be better for chessandgo.
We're missing something though. He just drove the camel back over to where it started from.
Yeah, I think he wants it on the west wing. I still don't know why that is right now, but maybe we'll have to ask him about that after the game.
Well, absolutely. We have a lot to ask him after the game for sure. Yeah, I would have definitely put my camel on F3. He might just be worried, like, to have the effective horse hostage on F3, you would need rabbits on maybe, or maybe even a rabbit on H3 and a strong piece on H4 to hold the linchpin hostage. Without that, maybe he just didn't think he had an effective horse hostage on the G3 square. That's the only thing I can guess. I would have almost instinctively put the camel on the southeast quadrant, especially with that horse now safe on A7 temporarily.
So what do you think he's trying to achieve now with the gold camel being in the west wing when the silver elephant is also there? I mean, maybe is he trying to get to that silver dog or something?
It's possible. He's either trying to engineer a whole series of moves where he can eventually rotate his elephant away from c6 trap, but that seems hard to do, or he maybe just wants to attack either the dog or the camel somehow. I don't know, it doesn't seem obvious to me what he would be trying to do right now.
Yeah, and also he's got that rabbit advanced on the A file up to A5. He did that in one of the moves when you were out. Usually if a horse is over there, you don't really do that, right? I mean, you do that along with the camel, but you don't usually do that when there's a horse there.
Right, I mean, it depends, like if you have a hostage on b7 and the rabbit gets stuck at a6, it's not very useful, but sometimes if you can get rabbits on a7 and e6, or if you can get a piece onto c7 and a rabbit on 5 or something, it can be very beneficial, but I don't know. I'm not sure what his motivations have been in these past few moves. So 13G, I mean, he has to protect the camel. I still like the idea of just moving the camel east, but...
Yeah, I would just want to, like, maybe move the rabbit up to c3 and freeze the camel and bring it back to, say, like, e3.
Yeah, and if he can... I'm just trying to think if what he should be trying to do in the northwest there, because he has to try to do something to help his... If he can get a whole swarm of pieces in there, his horse might be okay, but he's just perpetually stuck in a situation where he has a horse hostage on the northwest quadrant. That's a long-term liability, so he's either going to think of moving the camel to the southeast or thinking of a way that he can engineer some kind of multi-piece attack in the northwest to liberate his pieces from being frozen, but I don't know, that seems very difficult. I don't know what he's going to try here. I don't think... Kind of a non-committal move on 13G. I guess he's threatening, he's protected his camel, he's threatening now, he can finally flip that rabbit down to D5. I guess he might be thinking that with the camel on the west side now, he's got better chances to try to capture a rabbit in the C3 trap.
Okay. So you're thinking that he might start flipping some rabbits and passing back to the minor pieces that are back there?
Right, especially with, maybe that's why he has his camel on the west side. Maybe he's thinking that with the camel on the west, it's a lot easier to try to capture rabbits on that side. If he had a weak C3 trap, sometimes it's a concern that you flip rabbits back and then, and with the horse on G3, if Silva ever got a strong piece on the B3, flipping rabbits would actually be a disadvantage, but maybe he's trying to keep his camel on the west side so that rabbits are now more advantageously flipped down to the south. But I don't know if that's, like, I haven't seen a lot of the moves here, so I don't know if that's consistent with what he's been trying to do. I don't know if he's passed up any chances to flip rabbits, but that's at least one strategy, or at least explain why his camel's on the west rather than the east. Or maybe he's just doing a slow play here. He's threatening the rabbit flip, but also his camel's now threatening to move to F3 on 14G. So maybe he's just trying to slow play this, make Fritzlein think he's going to flip a rabbit maybe, but really his real goal is to get his camel to F3. And if he doesn't like holding the horse hostage from the G3 square, which is hard to do if you don't have a strong piece on H4, he could also just think of pushing the horse all the way down to H2 or something with his camel on G2, and then later remaneuvering his pieces all around to get a stronger position. That's, I mean, much better than the rabbit flip to D5. I much prefer the camel attacking the horse there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd want to go for that too. Fritzlein, though, here has a good position on the west where I think he can bring the camel to b6, pulling the horse to a6, and then with that dog being on a5, we'll create a situation where the camel then doesn't have to worry about being pulled out, and so the elephant will be free to leave at that point.
Exactly, yeah. And it looks like Fritzlein has thought about that. He didn't like his horse had been a strong force on g3, but now that it was threatened with being frozen on the g3 square, I think that was a very good move there on 13s. Now we've got a good camel hostage holding the horse on a6, and he's retreated his horse to the g5. Now with the material position even, I guess we could say that Fritzlein's won the opening because he has the horse hostage and Go doesn't. So I guess chessandgo's plan B here might just be, well, at least he can try to win rabbits while his horse is held hostage. And the other thing you could try to do, well, it wouldn't work in this situation. Try to maybe pull the silver dog down. If you remove that linchpin piece, and not only would threaten the dog, but it would also make it easier to relieve the hostage for the gold horse. I don't know if that's the best thing right now. I guess the simplest thing is, just flip rabbits down. They should be pretty easy to capture.
What about the possibility of putting that rabbit into c6, just to sort of block up c6 at least temporarily, so that the gold elephant would be a little bit more mobile?
Well, that's not a bad idea, yeah. And then you could even later pull the d8 rabbit down to d7 and then pull that down to d6 later. And if you can put lots of rabbits around the enemy trap, that's not a bad idea either. So on 14g, chessandgo, he's now secured his g3 square. That's always, when you have two free steps like that, that's actually a pretty good idea. It's a very important square strategically, that g3, and now that the silver horse couldn't comfortably hold that square, it's very good idea there for gold to take it. Fritzlein's on 14s. So I guess to secure his trap, to secure his hostage situation long term, he just wants a piece on b7. So now he's just shifted all his pieces west. Just in case the gold elephant ever made its way over to b5, you just want to have on b7 so that the camel is mobilized and it can pull the horse through the trap. So now that all the pieces are in place for that gold hostage on a6.
Yes, so it's like the last few moves have been sort of stabilizing their positions, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Fritzlein. He's now moved all his rabbits west, and by moving his rabbits west and putting a linchpin piece. Well, okay, so on 15g, yeah. So chessandgo no longer had that option of flipping rabbits and putting them on c6 or d5, so now he's just going to try to yank that dog out of place. And it's not a factor right now, but the dog's an important factor because if the silver elephant ever moves off the c5 square, the gold elephant will later want to take c5. And if you can clear away that b5 rabbit and the a5 silver dog, then eventually the gold elephant, if it ever makes it to c5, would be threatening to pull the camel down to b5. But as long as you have the pieces on a5 and b7, it kind of makes that a strong hostage situation. So right now, chessandgo on 15g is just trying to undermine that first by pulling the dog away. But it's not really a huge capture threat because the elephant can always move down to c4 to protect the dog, but the elephant moves away, then I think the gold elephant would move to c5. So I guess the first step is to lure the c5 silver elephant to c4 so the gold elephant can take c5, and then later try to see if you can free the gold horse.
Is it worth putting that gold rabbit into the c6 trap at this point?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's an unbreakable frame for the time being. Because he would flip the gold rabbit onto the trap. The dog would get pulled south. But if silver elephant moved south, then there'd be an opportunity for a gold piece to take the c5 square, but it doesn't look easy at all. I think that seems pretty strong.
So with both players having their all their major pieces on the same wing now, do you think there's that Fritzlein might try to create some sort of play over on the east wing? Well, he just made his move, I guess not.
Well, he might be thinking about it. That he might be thinking of bringing his horse to c5, but he might also be thinking of bringing it all the way down to e2 on his 16s move. In fact, I think that's the real purpose of the horse move, is to... And now the question is, if chessandgo wants to try to trade horses, he could just give up his hostage right now and push that horse from 5 to e4, and he'd also lose the b5 rabbit, so he'd be down one rabbit. If he doesn't take that, I think what Fritzlein's real motivation is to get that horse down to e2, eventually to f2. Because notice the camel will never escape now. It's, as long as that elephant's on b4, the camel won't be a threat. So maybe he now feels secure to get a horse down to f2. Of course, that was the importance of getting the horse to g3. If gold horse wasn't on g3, it'd be simple to attack. Just put a silver horse on g3. But now he has to do the long way around, coming all the way through the danger zone of e5. Now,
I think you're working on attacking the f2 trap or the c2 trap with that horse.
I just assumed the f3, but you're right. He might indeed be going for the d3 trap. Seems a little tougher. There's so many pieces there. So on 16g, chessandgo has begun a general advance of his pieces. Maybe just be trying to get a piece onto c5. If there's ever a framed rabbit there, or he might be trying to get a piece on the c5 so he can pull the c7 rabbit onto c6, which would be a good delaying tactic. Turn down the option of he could have traded horses there with the loss of the b5 rabbit. So instead of giving up the imperial lead, he's going to try and fight for the b5 rabbit, it looks like. He's not going to give up that control. Now Fritzlein can get his horse down to e2. I guess he doesn't even have to think right now if he wants the c3 or the f3 trap. He can just get his horse down to e2, and then from there it has the flexibility to do either one of them. I just like the idea of being on the opposite diagonal of the enemy elephant. I normally try to attack the f3 trap in this case, and plus there's so many gold defenders at d3, it would seem almost impossible to take that over.
Yeah, I can get f3 is being tough since there's a horse there, and once you bring the elephant over.
Right, but if he gets his one horse on f2 and then he just starts flooding all his rabbits south, he can just try to... Even if he can't actually win control of the trap, I find that just flooding rabbits down on a wing where you have firm control of the entire wing gives you good long-term chances. Fritzlein might be thinking first of on a c5 trap. Maybe he's not willing to move his horse all the way to e2 until he's figured out what he wants to do around the c6 trap, because it's pretty obvious that chessandgo is just doing a general advance on the west side. I don't think it's realistic that he's going to ever rotate. I can't see where the gold elephant would rotate out. I mean, dog on d6 wouldn't be a very good piece. I don't know if the elephant can rotate away, but Fritzlein might just be thinking about what he's going to do to put pieces on, block out the dog from reaching c5 at least, or having the 7 rabbit pulled to c6. Well, I guess another thing is chessandgo might just be trying to, well, like, if you can just get a flood of pieces around c4 and c5, it takes away some options from the silver elephant.
That was really unexpected. I was thinking that he would bring the horse more towards the gold side, as you were suggesting, but he seems to be wanting to take it more to the west wing.
So he must be thinking of, like, chessandgo was threatening, one of his threats was to bring a gold piece up to c5, so he might be more concerned about that. Chessandgo was thinking of pushing a rabbit onto the c6 trap. He could do it right now. His elephant would end on the d7 square, and that would be an annoying rabbit for silver. There's that risk to the cat. Yes, if the elephant goes up to c7 to push the rabbit down and moves over to d7, the silver horse could pull up the cat temporarily. They're just temporarily block away the gold elephant. I don't know if you'd want to do that. Yeah, I guess it's better to just think strategically instead of pushing a rabbit onto the trap. Just think about what he wants to do now. I don't know if he was planning to semi-blockade the b4 elephant, or whether he actually did want a piece on c5, but Fritzlein won't allow that. So he still has the option, if he wants to, of trading horses. He can push that horse to... No, he doesn't want to do that. So on 17g, chessandgo has just continued his general advance of pieces. Wants to plug up that. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, because if the silver horse wants to, it can just occupy c5 and completely block out any pieces from gold pieces from reaching g5. But then, of course, the silver elephant's really not well placed at all. That might be what chessandgo's real strategy is: plug up that whole side. But I don't know long term what either side wants to do, because once one silver horse gets placed on c5, the other silver horse doesn't want to attack into the southeast anymore, because then he would be vacating the g6 square, and it would just be allowing a gold advance on the east side. Now the idea of silver attack on the f3 square is no longer really valid. So if the silver horse moves to c5, I don't know what either side's going to do. It just seems to be a very stodgy position with no real opportunities.
It's interesting, after the opening there, it was very a quick attack on both sides, and then now it seems to be bogged down quite a bit.
Yeah, it's turning into a real positional war here, and in these types of situations, it's sometimes hard to know the motivations of the players. Chessandgo could try to threaten that silver horse with his own elephant, but now that wouldn't work at all, because his own horse is at risk. Chessandgo could just blockade. He could put a piece on the d2 square just to blockade the horse from moving south. But then there's the risk of the bulldog could be framed on the c6 square. Chessandgo, if he wants to avoid having his dog framed on c6, he's going to buy the horse too, which would leave the silver elephant mobile. I mean, the easiest way is to just pull a rabbit down onto the c6 square. I like that idea. I mean, not only does that prevent the gold dog from being framed, but over later in the game, if the elephant ever leaves, it also temporarily delays the capture of the gold horse on a6. And if he does that, I guess he's going to be concerned about the horse invading d2 and c2, or d2 and e2, sorry. Yes, so chessandgo is he's prevented both a dog frame, and he's prevented any immediate capture against the a6 horse, but now we'll see what Fritzlein is. So I'm not sure what his long-term strategy has been with that horse that whole time.
Think he'll bring that cat back over to f6?
Oh, yeah, gold cat, right?
Yeah, before that.
Yeah, you're right. He could just put his dog on 6, the cat on e5, and the horse on e4. Got a mobile horse to attack the cat. And the only thing is that gold elephant does temporarily have that free move because of they don't have it. Because if the elephant moves away while pulling the d7 rabbit to d6, that would really slow down the silver counterattack. It would take 2 moves just to take the dog. So If the elephant moves away, pulling down the d7 rabbit, that does really slow down the silver side, but the thing is, if the elephant moves to e4, it doesn't work because the silver horse would move from g6 to g4, and the other silver horse would capture the cat. And then there's... Oh, that's even better than what I was thinking. That was threatened.
He managed to get the dogs in there. Wow, that's amazing. I didn't even see that.
No, I didn't think about that either. Now, there's a potential cat frame here. But with the gold dogs having taken over c5 and d6, that was a very good threat. I didn't even see that at all. Now the silver's position, obviously he might be thinking of bringing his elephant back. Well, after taking the cat frame seems cool. Maybe start moving the elephant back to fight for control of the c6, but then the gold camel can start pulling up the a5 dog, try to create a second threat. It's going to be interesting now. Fritzlein has to think. So if he pushes the cat up to c6 with his horse on f5, I think his concern would be that the elephant would just abandon the cat immediately, push the silver dog west, and then push the silver horse down to f4. Then the dog could then move around to e4 and free the silver horse, but that might just be a one-move saving tactic. Then the elephant could move to f4 and maybe capture at least one of them. So if he's going to freeze that, going to frame the cat, maybe he wants to try to activate his dog. That doesn't seem that easy either. He moves a horse to e4, the dog to f5. And then I don't know what he would want to do with his last step. Either start to move his elephant into the action. Might be the best idea.
G3?
Sorry, the dog from e5 down to d3?
If you do have the D3 trap that has nothing but rabbits.
So after, you're saying like maybe push this is the 19th move, right? So maybe, unless I'm frozen again. Okay, so if the silver horse, you're saying maybe uses 2 steps, then that would activate the dog to go 2 more steps? You would take or you're just not thinking of framing the cat at all?
Maybe after what you pointed out with framing the cat, leaving both the dog and the horse being vulnerable, maybe it's not framing the cat after those dogs are framed.
Right, yeah. Maybe, I guess if he just leaves his dog and horse in place and just tries to bring his elephants back. Problem is, Fritzlein's probably, maybe instead of worrying about the cat at all, maybe his real concern is that those 2 dogs, if the gold pieces can become well entrenched and really delay things on the c6 trap, c6 trap is really where Fritzlein's long-term victory is going to come from. If he's going to win this game, it has to be by regaining control of his c6 trap. Maybe he's just not as concerned about the immediate cat frame as maybe. Okay, so Fritzlein did move his horse to b5 on 19s. I don't know. He's still threatening the cat frame on 20s, but he has at least brought his horse to safety, and he's threatening to pull away either one of the dogs that are giving him so many problems right now. So chessandgo on 20g. Yeah, and I don't know if his concern is going to be the cat that much either. It seems that the c6 trap is the most important one, and determining what to do. There were a rabbit on a8. If that rabbit was on a7 instead, then I would move the dog from 6 to 7. Actually, no, because then the horse might pursue. But anyways, it wouldn't matter anyways, because the the c7 square is not as good a square for the gold dog because there's no rabbit on e7, and that would just allow a second hostage by the camel on b7. So the dog doesn't want to move to c7 here.
I was thinking maybe if the gold elephant pushes that silver dog down to e4, and then maybe even bring the gold camel to f4.
Yeah, the gold horse to f4.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, gold horse to f4.
Yeah,
that
and then
would
if the
allow for exchange of cat for the exchange of a dog, maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking that the horse might move from g6 to g3, and then the cat, just to protect itself, might move from f7 to g7.
Mm-hmm.
In that scenario, it's a real problem. Maybe no, this is tough. Yeah, because he wants to leave the elephant on e5 to freeze the d5 horse. So the farthest he would push the dog is e4, but then he doesn't want his horse to vacate the g3 square because that would allow maybe he would do it as part of a two-move process. Yeah, maybe he could push the dog to e4, move the cat to f4, and the horse to g4, and then that would allow the cat on the next move to retreat to f2, while the 5 horse is frozen and unable to push the d6 dog into the f6 trap. An interesting tactical idea there. Really, I don't see nothing really. Okay, so in 20G, we're going to have to figure out the motivation here now. The cat has moved to d4 and the horse has moved up d4. Don't know.
I didn't follow that at all. I don't know what's going on here.
He was trying to bring... I don't know if he's just doing a general advance. Maybe he's thinking of bringing his horse to the f5 square and then attacking the f6 trap. That's one idea. Or maybe he's just going to plan to retreat his cat and leave his horse on the g file. Or maybe he was just trying to set up... maybe he does want to push the dog. On 20S, the gold dog has been pushed up to the d7 square. So if Fritzlein wants to protect everything on this move, he could push the silver horse from d6 down to d5. And then he might want to use 2 moves to save his cat. Move his horse to 5, cat to f5. He did, because he was threatened on 21B. He had to protect both his c5 dog and his f5 cat. So I think that was the best way to protect both at the same time. So again, the gold dog on 22G will threaten to take the c7 square, but because there's an empty square on a7, that dog would then just be taken hostage on b7. So maybe the dog's going to try to get its way over to the f7 square with the horse on. The horse can reach f5, and the dog can reach f7. Okay, so 21S. So now the cat is threatened. The e5 cat is threatened to be pushed into the f7 square. Sorry, f6 square. The dog can't yet reach f7 because it doesn't yet have the supporting piece. chessandgo can, if he wants to, he can retreat. Because there's no immediate threat at c6, he can bring his dog down to c4 as a temporary saving measure and then push his elephant onto the e5 square. Well, I guess if he wants a really temporary measure, he could put the horse on f5. It wouldn't be, and then maybe put the horse on f5 and move the dog to e7, and then the dog would try to get to f7 next turn. The only problem, that's not a good move. Actually, the dog on f7 is not good because it would just be taken hostage. That's a tricky position. So right now, chessandgo, if he moves his elephant to e6 to protect that f6 trap, he has to move his war dog down. but then his 7 dog wouldn't be well positioned on that square without the elephant at d6 to protect it. So if he moves his elephant away, both dogs are in trouble. If he doesn't move his elephant, he can temporarily put his horse on f5, but that's not a good long-term solution at all. It would even well, I guess what he could do is he could put a dog on c7 because it frames a rabbit, so there would be no immediate threat of the hostage. He could put a piece on c4 to prevent the. No, that's kind of not a good move, though. I just don't like the idea of the dog taking the c7 square. I don't know what to do with that f5 trap. I mean, he wants to. I don't see how you can mobilize the cats and create a good threat here. I mean, he could put.
Ouch! He did move that dog to f7 or c7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, you're saying not to do that, but I don't know what he was thinking.
It is a temporary move because I think now that the d5 silver horse wants to take the c5 square. Because you can't immediately take the c7 dog hostage without losing the c6 rabbit, so he's got one extra move to keep that dog alive, but it just seems that if the horse takes the c5 square, now there's all kinds of extra trouble for the gold pieces. Now he has to think about protecting one more gold piece in the northwest, and then...
Oh, actually, it wouldn't just lose that rabbit. He can't do that on this move, because after that rabbit on c6 is gone, the elephant would have been able to capture the camel. Wow, I didn't see that at all.
I didn't see that. So on 22S, the gold rabbit was captured on the c3 trap. I wasn't thinking of immediately taking the c7 dog hostage, but so now there's a new threat. So now the Jesco has to think about protecting his 5 dog from being pushed into c3 now. So one thing he could do is chessandgo could pull the a5 dog down to a3 with his camel on b3, and that's temporarily safe. And then, or he could even, I don't know, he could temporarily liberate his horse, even if I wouldn't do that. I would first if he wants to bring the dog to a3, camel on b3, then think about liberating the a6 horse on the next move by putting the rabbit on a5, horse on a7. And now chessandgo is down a rabbit, and he does have some pieces threatened, but at least he's got a chance to drag a dog hostage to a3. He's got a chance to liberate his horse. He's not looking too bad at the f6 trap. No. He's done something completely different here. So now that on 23G he's attacked again on the trap. The d2 rabbit's vulnerable to capture, but of course not going to worry about that while his camel's threatened. So that's a really good. I like that 23G because now seems he's got a really well entrenched dog, and even if at some time in the future a dog gets pulled hostage to 7, the other dog can just take its place at c7, and it's very well positioned there. Now the question is going to be what Fritzlein's going to do. He's got a dog vulnerable on f6. Later pulled to f5 with the f4 cat moving to e4. That's a lane to try to capture that dog. Got to worry about what those gold dogs might take control of the northwest trap. And he's also going to worry if his elephant has to return to c5 to protect the c6 trap. He's got to worry about the camel dragging the dog to a3 eventually. So Fritzlein's got the material advantage, and there's a lot of strangely placed gold pieces all over the board, but Fritzlein has to be careful here, because if he's not if he allows too much counterplay to all these gold pieces all over the board, pretty soon they might focus together and build a strong attack. I don't know what Fritzlein wants to do here. I would at least think of moving the f6 dog to 6. Maybe putting I don't know if he wants to put that horse on c5. Or he might try to block out, if he moves a rabbit from g8 to d8 and another rabbit to a8 to a7, at least he's frozen the gold dogs that second gold dog can't participate. No, that's stupid because it lose the camp. So it's just made his 23s, the silver horse is occupied c5, and then silver dogs move to e6, where it can't be pulled by the gold horse on g5. And the gold elephant doesn't have a lot of maneuverability right now. And so again, the one pretty obvious move is to pull the dog down to b3. You might even do that by pulling the camel all the way down to a2 so that the camel can't be immediately attacked by the silver elephant. I don't know if he's worried about the silver elephant. He is maybe a2 rather than b3 for the gold camel. The other thing he might do is just pull the dog down once, put a rabbit on b4 and pull the dog down once to a4. That would give him an extra move to decide where to put the gold camel, and it would also possibly free the horse to a7 on the next move. But it doesn't seem as necessary now to try to bump that horse to a7 now that there's a well-positioned dog on c7. Because if chessandgo's worried that the d7 rabbit's going to go to a7 and the dog taken hostage at e7, then the second dog can move to c7. And it's temporarily safe there. I wonder if he's worried about that if one dog gets taken hostage at b7 and then the horse moves through the trap and tries to push the other dog up to c8, that wouldn't look good for gold at all. Thank you. chessandgo is just solidifying his position here. I guess he put a piece on the c3 trap, that way if his camel drags the dog down to a b3 square, that it's not an immediate capture threat if the elephant moves to b4. He's moved his cat to safety, which, I mean, the other thing he could have done was put a cat on, left one cat on e5 and the other cat on e4, and then that way if the dog pulled through the trap to capture the cat, the gold horse would have pushed the dog down, but that wasn't a big concern. Okay, so 24s, the dog has been taken hostage at b7, and now he goes, I guess his major options are, he wants to put the dog on c7. That was one of the things I was going to suggest is you could either put the elephant on c6 or push the horse down to push b4 square, but he's doing it one step at a time here. First he's going to...
I was going to say, I'm totally amazed at how quickly chessandgo made that move within 14 seconds, and it's such a dangerous looking move, right? I mean, especially putting your elephant on a trap like that.
Well, I guess we could look for an elephant frame, but it doesn't look like there's one available. No, that wouldn't work at all. So there's no risk at all to that horse, to that elephant on c6. There is a risk to that c5 horse, because of course when it gets pushed into the c3 trap, it would be the camel, not the elephant, that pushes it in. That would protect the 7 dog. So Fritzlein, yeah, that's a pretty good move, because now if you want to put the elephant on c5 and the horse on d5, and if so, what's he going to do then when the dog gets pushed to a3 on the next move? Then he's going to try to overwork that elephant a bit by forcing the elephant to take c5 and then trying to threaten the dog in c3. He's trying to gain the upper hand here. It looks like silver has a lot of hostages, but once you get too many gold pieces up there, it's hard to hold all those hostages. A dog can eventually, one dog can eventually start pushing. It would take several moves, but if you can start pushing some of those silver pieces east a bit, one dog eventually does that, and then try and free the wolf's horse from the north. But you wouldn't do that directly; it would be too slow. But just over the long term, if silver has to move some of his pieces away from the northwest corner, and some dogs have some maneuverability later. It's a 25S. So the elephant has taken c5, but the horse has taken b5. That's interesting. Not worried at all.
Maybe he didn't want to have that camel pushed out to b5.
Yeah, that's a good point here. I don't know if that was huge threat though, because he moves his elephant there, then the silver horse could have tried to maybe eventually get up to c7. I don't know. Now it's pretty clogged up. Yeah, I guess the gold camel is not going to have an easy time right now. Push the dog to a3, but then I guess on the next move that elephant will move back to c4 and the horse to c5. So trying to think of what chessandgo strategy might be here now. I don't think he wants to push that silver rabbit south from d6.
No, I definitely want to push it back.
Yeah, he would, yeah.
And maybe pushing that dog, that silver dog to a3 with the camel.
Yeah, 2 steps. And then maybe the last 2 steps. He doesn't have to move his elephant to safety yet, but if he's worried about the d6 rabbit, I guess he could push it up to d7. And it would be interesting. Then silver might try to... Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah, he was worried about that silver rabbit moving down the side, but he also wanted to create a threat against the gold dog. Now it would be interesting to see what silver does here. He has to put his elephant on the c4 square. He wants to protect the 6 trap, so he could put a camel on c6, a horse on 6, and an elephant on c4, and then the strategy for the next move would be to move a rabbit from c8 to d8 so that camel could move to 7, and then he would have a couple of dog hostages. He would have his pieces secured. Or I guess you could do it the other way, just put his horse on. That would make more sense. Elephant on c4, horse on c6. Then he's threatening that push. Once the c8 square is cleared up, that horse becomes a pretty strong threat on the c6. It seems like the best idea, because the elephant seems it's forced to go to c4, and once the elephant's forced to go to c4, you have to use another... Well, I see the problem. If you put the elephant on c4 and the horse on 6, he's just going to push both pieces south and get his elephant to b6. But he could still get his... even if he did that, then the horse could still go from c5, 7, with the d7 rabbit moving to d6. He could still take a dog hostage with a horse on c7, even in that case. Yeah, it's hard to see that many options for silver, because if we consider think that the elephant on c4 is a required move, and then you have to protect the camel, it almost forces you to put a horse on c6. Unless there's a more creative way to do that. Yes, so now 26S. Basically, Fritzlein did what he had to do. He had to protect his dog. He had to clog up the c6 trap. Now he's gonna... chessandgo's major worry is going to be he's going to have a dog hostage at c8 and b7. hostages everywhere. So what can gold do to try and prevent all this? I mean, he can do what he did in the first place, which was to push the gold elephant back on his c6 trap. But Fritzlein showed earlier that he's willing to move that d7 rabbit down the board. So if the gold elephant moves to either c6 or b6, no, chessandgo's just doing a general advance here. Of course, the rabbit advance on the east side would become more effective if he had like a dog or maybe a horse on f7 and he had a gold dog on e6 or something. Then you can start thinking of seriously attacking. But right now it's just a preliminary attack with his gold pieces, hoping at some point in the future he's going to secure some strong squares for his pieces. So Fritzlein's obvious move here on e7s would be to take that dog hostage at c8, and you would have 3 hostage pieces at one trap, which is very rare. Fritzlein's final move, he put a rabbit on h6 on his 27s move. So I guess he's not worried at all that chessandgo's, because chessandgo's maybe one active play is to pull that rabbit from h6 to h5, and on the next move flip it to g4, and then not only would it try to regain material equality. No, okay, he didn't do that. I was thinking if he tried to capture that h6 rabbit over a long 3-move period, he would also open up the h-file for his rabbits to advance. But it looks like he's, with no linchpin piece on the a5 square, it looks like he wants to break that frame, pull the camel from... Well, it wouldn't work over the long term because the camel would just fight its way back to b6. This is interesting. So ordinarily when there's no... when the camel's immobilized on b6, usually you put your elephant on b5, because then the camel can't capture a piece. But because there's multiple hostages, the c7 horse would just capture the c8 dog. So, and then normally that's how you break that frame, but because you can't break it that way, and if you used 4 steps to pull the camel to b5 and the horse put it on b6, that's a reversible move. Well, he might be thinking of making the move. He might be thinking of breaking the frame in just that way, knowing that if Fritzlein reverses it, I think that chessandgo wins the reversing war, right? He just make the move again, and eventually Fritzlein can't reverse it. I think he's hoping to, and then if he get his horse on the b6 and then get a rabbit on a6, he's kind of in the clear. That camel eventually push the horse back onto the c6 square. It's not so bad anymore. So it looks like, if I've got this right, it looks like chessandgo is threatening to break the frame with a non-reversible type of move. So on 28s, Fritzlein beginning his own, both sides are advancing rabbits. And the dog has moved to E. On 29G, only 12 seconds, chessandgo knew what he wanted to do. Now Fritzlein can reverse this, and then chessandgo can reverse that, and then I think if I know the rules right, then Fritzlein can't reverse the next one, and that means that frame is broken, or at least one hostage has been broken. 2 dogs are still going to be in trouble.
I think Fritzlein on this move might want to use the dog to help invade c3 instead, and create some problems there. Well, he didn't really have to protect c6 yet, I don't think.
Actually, Fritzlein did an interesting thing there on 29s. Both sides are building up their time here now. He reversed the move, but he put his elephant on a different square so that when he reversed it, it wouldn't hit the 3 repetition row. That was an interesting idea, though, you had about the dog. But it looks like the 2 players are just working on the hostage situation now. But Fritzlein's varying his positions at the end of each move so that he doesn't get hit with the 3 repetition row, which is interesting. Good tactic. Now what does Daligault want to do? So it looks like he just cannot break this. Whereas now he would have to use 4 moves to break the hostage and only 2 moves for Fritzlein to reverse it. So now he has to think of an entirely new strategy here. And it's tough. I mean, At least he can move if he moves his camel to A2, push the dog to B2, at least he's creating an immediate threat. But now he wouldn't want to do that because then the dog would turn into attacker with the help of the silver elephant. So if he wants to, he could push the... Not easy at all. I think at the very least he wants to freeze that A2 dog. He doesn't want that to turn into an attacker. He doesn't also want to push it to B2 because he won't capture it and it would be helping. So I guess he could push the dog to A1. That's one possibility. He can't do anything about that hostage. His horse on G5 can't really do anything at the moment.
Yeah, I think probably if chessandgo could slowly get his camel along with that dog more to the east wing. Actually, I mean, it's a very long-term slow strategy, but that might help him out because that elephant definitely wants, the silver elephant wants to stay on the west wing to keep that camel from getting popped out. So the gold camel might be better off on the east wing.
Yeah, it just seems way too slow. The game would change so much by the time the camel tried to push the dog across. Or it just wouldn't have enough time. I think chessandgo has to think something more immediate. What he might want to do is if he really wants that G5 horse, he has the more advanced rabbits on the H file, so he might want to think of putting the horse on E5 this turn and then trying to get it around to F7, and then maybe just with the cat and a whole flood of rabbits trying to fight a goal opportunity up the F file. I don't know if that works though. Yeah, or at the very least, at least use one step. If you use 3 steps to push the silver dog from E5 to D5, at least use one step to freeze the A2 dog. Yeah, that is a problem. You might just use one step to put his horse on F5 and then 3 steps to push the dog to A1 if he's really worried about that silver dog. I don't know how worried he is. I don't know how much he is worried about the A2 silver dog, but if he is worried, A1 is how to play. Gold horse on F5, and then the gold horse has got a couple threats. It's not a huge threat against the 5 dog because the G6 horse can protect it, but he would also be there just 4 steps away from reaching E6. And I think that horse can build some decent long-term goal opportunities from the F7 square. That is a long thought process for chessandgo on 31G. His reserve's down to 1:13 now. So he can't break the hostage. He can't break the hostage on the A6 square or B7 or C8. He's got all kinds of hostages.
Yep, he did what you were suggesting here.
Yeah. So now he might be thinking. Well, he knows that the gold horse can move from G6, push the rabbit from G3 down to G2. So he's obviously thought one step ahead. Then he might use 3 steps to move. Maybe the D3 rabbit to E3 on his 32G move, and then, 3 steps to move the gold horse. If the silver horse occupies G3, the gold horse would go from E5 to G6, creating a goal-in-1 threat, and then you can re-solidify the F3 trap with the D3 rabbit moving to E3. So maybe his goal is to lure the silver horse down and then create the goal-in-1 threat from the G6 square.
Actually, that wouldn't be goal-in-1 yet, right?
Oh, right, sorry, you're right. But at least a very strong threat. Okay, so now the horse moved to F4 square. I guess Fritzlein put his horse on F4 rather than G3. That way it can move back and forth between the 2 traps more quickly. I guess maybe he's thinking that because he might be expecting the gold horse to occupy G6 now, where it's not a goal-in-1, but at least a powerful attack. And if the gold horse occupies G6 and the cat moves from F3 to E3, then silver has some really strong chances to take over the F3 trap, while the silver horse is very close to protecting its own trap. chessandgo has to be really careful here. Maybe it's better actually, instead of moving the cat to maybe move the D3 rabbit to E3, and that way there's that extra defender at the trap. it makes sense to use 3 steps to move the gold horse from e5 to g6. And of course, it's not only chess and go that has advanced rabbits either. There is some room for the silver pieces to clear room along the e file to advance rabbits as well. Like Fritzlein might be thinking of attacking gold down the middle and chess and go along the west east side. And with the gold elephant tied to c5 and the silver elephant possibly jumping into the play later, it does look like a pretty realistic possibility to advance those silver rabbits, especially if the gold horse moves to. So, the other possibility for gold here, it's a sacrifice, but he could put a rabbit on g6 and then pull the e6 rabbit to e5. Does that work? Because now the gold horse couldn't push its way onto g6 without advancing the gold rabbit to f6. And by pulling the silver rabbit from e6 to e5, that would open up a lane. And he's also threatening to capture the cat. But I don't. That doesn't look good. I don't like that because it would leave the rabbit too vulnerable. So for 32G here, this is tough. Gold horse moves to g6. It's got a pretty good position, but it would be you're leaving the f3 trap vulnerable, and he's got to be worried about the rabbits too. Could be an interesting race here down the end. It'd also be if he moved the rabbit from d3 to e3, he'd also be leaving the rabbit. That's interesting. I thought if he moved the rabbit to g6, I thought if he did that, he would pull the e6 rabbit to e5, so that if the silver horse on 32S pushes its way to g6, then the f6 rabbit wouldn't be framed. But I think what Fritzlein must have been thinking about is that if maybe he's inviting the silver horse to push the rabbit onto the f6 square, and then he's just going to sacrifice everything to make a run for the end. He could just give up the c6 trap with his elephant and then fight his way towards a goal on the northeast side. This is a bit of a gamble. Chess and Go is just saying, go ahead and frame my rabbit on f6, and I'm gonna bring my elephant in and attack.
Yeah, that's very unusual. I wouldn't have never expected to do a move like that. But
so now Fritzlein made a good defensive move. That's a really good move. Whenever you have the gold rabbit on g5 and then a rabbit on h5, that makes it almost impossible. It's so hard to break that g5 rabbit free now, because you have to. The only ways he can do it is he could move his elephant on. So 32S is a very good defensive move by Fritzlein, and if Chess and Go wants to defend that, he's going to have to maybe start thinking of sacrificing pieces. If he moves his elephant to d6 on 33G, then on 34G push the rabbit from e6 to e5, and then try and get with the help of the elephant, just sacrifice as many pieces as you need to on the c6 trap. But of course, it wouldn't really be a sacrifice because the immediate threats are against the goal attack. But this isn't easy at all. It's not going to be, even if Chess and Go wants to sacrifice all his pieces on c6 to attack f6, it's still not easy. That was a good move by Fritzlein. It's not a strong attacking rabbit anymore. The other thing if Chess and Go wants to build an attack slowly, he can move his rabbits to h4, g4, and put a cat on g3. And then his thinking there would be that the g4 rabbit kind of mobilizes the f5 rabbit if the horse moves from f5 to 6. But that doesn't seem to work either. If Chess and Go wants to make progress, he's going to have to sacrifice. He's going to have to bring his elephant in and just hope that the threats he creates are going to be faster than any captures against his trap. So if Chess and Go, maybe he's not thinking of that. Maybe he's not going to do sacrifice pieces. Maybe he's just going to hold the position here. Problem is that the c2 rabbit is hanging right now. I don't think he's too concerned about that. The silver pieces take control of the f3 trap. That's a big problem for your Chess and Go. And his gold horse right now is just stuck on the f5 square, protecting the g5 rabbit, and it's not easy to advance that g5 rabbit. So Chess and Go now might be thinking of maybe you could put a rabbit back to 3, cat on f2, and then move the elephant. No? Okay. That's a little different than what I was going to suggest. I was going to suggest moving the elephant to 5 and then threatening there, but so
he seems to be doing what you had suggested earlier, or just giving up c6 and trying to push his way through f6.
Right, but I mean, it's almost a bit of desperation here. I mean, he's obviously Fritzlein can't afford to use 4 steps to capture any of the gold pieces right now, because if he did that, he'd lose the Alex rabbit in the game. So Fritzlein's going to make an immediate defensive move, but the thing is, once Fritzlein starts blocking up those pieces, like blocking up the f6 trap, it's going to be hard to make progress. Like, not easy to advance that g5 rabbit at all. I think right now, I like Fritzlein's position a bit better. I mean, chessandgo, his position was kind of collapsing a bit, and he's making a run for the end, but I think if Fritzlein defends properly here, I think he can stop this. So we got to think of... Yeah, so on 33S, the f6 trap has been plugged up, and now, so this is the problem. How do you advance that g5 rabbit now? It's pretty much impossible. So, I mean, there's a vulnerable horse sitting there on f4, but there's nothing that chessandgo can do to threaten it without losing its entire northwest quadrant. So, if the elephant decides it's at 34G, I just think that chessandgo's attack isn't going to work, and that he might be thinking right now of just moving back to protect the c6 trap. Unless anybody can see something that works, I don't see anything at all. I mean, if he wants to dig himself even further, he can move his elephant to f7 and push a rabbit to f8, and then he can try and, maybe on the next turn, try and push the cat to f6. Like, he can try and fight his way through and just keep struggling, but I don't know if that's going to work. Or I guess what he could do, if he moves his elephant to e7 and pulls the f6 rabbit to e6 and then pushes the f7 rabbit to f6, and then on the next move, pull that cat to g7 and move the rabbit from g5 to g6, that cat would be frozen there on g7. So if chessandgo wants to continue the attack, I think the key is to move their elephant to f7 and then try and freeze the cat on g7, and then along the next move. So it would be 34G, get the elephant to f7, 35G, freeze the cat. That's a little different than what I was suggesting, but I think the idea is the same. I think chessandgo is trying to make it so that now the g5 rabbit cannot be pushed further south. I mean, it could. I mean, 4 steps would pull the rabbit to f4, but e4, but it would be reversible. Chessandgo is just going for it here. He's going to try and get us, maybe, and eventually freeze the cat at g7, and then use a couple steps to get rabbits up to g6 and g5. That would be a very, very powerful threat. Fritzlein has to really...
Actually, couldn't Fritzlein also, like, even on this turn, just move the elephant to, say, like, b3 and advance, say, maybe like that rabbit on d6, maybe up even to, I don't know, maybe c4 or something, and
yeah, you're right. With the cat frozen at d4, you're right. Yeah, so Fritzlein you're right. He has some good counterattacking. He might just slide. He could either defend by sliding rabbits from e6 and d6, slide them both east. You just try to plug up the hole as much as possible. Or Omar's got a good counterattack there with the cat just sitting there frozen at d4. He could try to bring his own counterattack down, putting a rabbit right down the c file and the elephant at b3. That's a pretty good.
Then I think it'll become extremely sharp race here, and I don't know who would be faster after that.
Okay, so if he did that, actually, if the rabbit moves to c4 and the elephant moves to b3, chessandgo has the delaying tactic to move the c2 rabbit, and then move the cat. The cat would push the rabbit from c4 to c5. Chessandgo has one delaying tactic against that move. Maybe Fritzlein's thinking of a combination of the two. I like the idea of having a piece on f6 here because you don't want, if I was silver, I wouldn't want that f7 rabbit to be pushed onto f6. And then if the silver cat's pulled up to g7 and then a rabbit advances to g6 on the next move, that's very hard to stop because the cat's frozen, right? So, but I think if silver slides pieces to the east, just keep sliding pieces over to the east, I think that's going to help him a lot. The question for Fritzlein is he can slide pieces east and try and fight back, or he could have gone for his own attack. But he's did kind of a hybrid there. He's trying to get his elephant. Yeah, I think that's a good move there by Fritzlein. So he's just going to try and bring his elephant back into the play. If the elephant can become a factor here on the northeast side, I think that's going to be pretty hard for... well, it's hard to say. This is going to be a tricky ending because the gold rabbits are pretty well advanced. I mean, really, the only thing holding a gold victory back is the g6 cat and the h5 rabbit. And chessandgo, he might think of flipping the f7 rabbit down to e6, for example, just to plug up. I think if he does that, if he just tries to plug up the position, it's then hard for the elephant to become a factor. And then he would still be thinking of trying to maybe freeze his cat on g7 later. Maybe that's what he's going to do. I mean, he could try and capture the a2 dog, but the problem is that if he uses moves to try to capture a silver piece, then he's going to lose far more material of his own before he can do that. So I don't think chessandgo is going to worry at all about the animal or the dog on the southwest quadrant. And he's either going to have to, and if he goes back, if his elephant moves back to c6 to protect all those gold pieces that are exposed there, he's going to lose his f5 horse. So I think chessandgo can't try to capture pieces. I mean, it's too late to defend his own pieces. I think he's kind of committed now. His the game's going to come down to the g5 rabbit, whether he can get it through. And I was thinking of flipping the f7 rabbit down to e6 just to, that kind of blocks up silver's elephant square. No, it could still make it to e6, couldn't it? So that's not very good either. Although, yeah.
What about the possibility of like maybe the gold elephant moving to e6 and pulling the rabbit? And
you're saying get the horse to f6?
And then get the horse to f6 so that it could eventually, maybe freeze that cat, or use the horse basically to help push that e5 or g5 rabbit.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Omar. I think that's the best move. Because the elephant, even if it reaches f, so you did something a bit different.
Wow.
I did like your move though, Omar. I think that was pretty good because once that horse reached f6, it could have gotten to g6 and really helped those rabbits. And in post game, we'll ask chessandgo if he saw that move. I think that was a really good one.
But now the gold elephant is totally committed here now.
Oh yeah, and so now the Fritzlein, if he wants to, can even pull that elephant, the elephant to e6, the horse to 5, and then put his own horse on f5, and I think that blocks up the attack. I think the counterattack base almost comes to an end now. The only thing that would save chessandgo is that he could put his camel on c5. He might try to hold his, and he might think that if the silver elephant's going to go to the e6 square and it's kind of committed there, then he's going to put his own camel maybe on c5 just to desperately hold the position together. And then if he'd move the camel to c5, that cat could move from d4 to d3 just to protect the c2 trap. But actually, that won't hold for very long. Gold's too precarious. And I think Omar had the better idea on 35G, because now I think that the elephant has access to the e6 square, and it can even give the f5 square to the silver horse, and then that's really hard. Then the question is there any momentum left in those gold horses on the g file? It's hard to say.
Yeah, I think Fritzlein definitely has ways here now to flatten this attempt that chessandgo is making here, and then eventually be able to start capturing those pieces around c6. And I think once that happens, I think it'll kind of deteriorate really fast from there.
Maybe Fritzlein's worry is that if he leaves the rabbit on the f6 square, maybe he's thinking that if he pulls the horse to e5, puts his silver horse on f5, then no, I guess this wouldn't work. I was thinking that maybe he's worried that the gold horse will push its way to e6. Also interesting, so the silver elephant I thought maybe would go to e6, but instead maybe he's thinking of, he doesn't want the camel to go to c5, so on 35S the elephant went to d5, so that prevents any idea of the camel protecting the c5 square. And that was yeah, so, but the one thing that really surprised me is that he left the e6 square unoccupied. Now he has to think about, maybe what he's thinking is that if the gold horse pushes the cat to h6, for example, on this move, then he can use a couple of steps on his next move to move the elephant back up to g7. This would be on the 37 move, with rabbits moving up to g6 and g5. So he's going to use he might be thinking of using one move to push the cat to h6, right? Now for chessandgo's, what he wants to do on the next move is he wants to push all 6, g5, and g4 rabbit. He wants to move all of them forward one square next move. He might. The problem is that that's probably why Fritzlein, maybe one reason he left the e6 square vacant is that it doesn't make it easy for to do that, because without a piece blocking up the e6 square, the rabbit on g5 would be vulnerable to capture. So maybe, that's going to be tough. I don't think chessandgo can make this work, because usually what he does, he likes to move 3 pieces together in like kind of a parade where the front piece clears the way, and then a rabbit moves up, and then a second piece moves up behind the rabbit to prevent that rabbit from being pushed back. But I don't know if it'll work this way, because on the next move, the rabbit in the lead would get pushed into the f6 trap. Fritzlein just has to be careful here. I think he's got the winning position. He's got here on 36S. I think he made a really nice move on 35S, because he left the 6 square vacant, which I think is a good idea so the silver rabbit can move off the trap and capture any rabbit that moves to g5 or to g6. And also he's blocked the c5 square, so the camel can no longer protect its own army. If chessandgo doesn't win this attack, it's just going to be a disintegration of his forces on the west side. I think Fritzlein's defending pretty well here. I think if he really wants to be really, really careful, maybe just keep moving forces to the east. If he puts a horse on g7 and a rabbit on g8 or something like that, I just don't see how. There's no threat against the f5 horse or the f6 rabbit. He has to make sure he has enough pieces. What he might also think of doing is maybe putting, I don't know if he wants, okay, so I thought he might move his horse to the east side just to have that extra strong defender, but he's just going to use rabbits. Now he's plugging that up. Yeah, so now ordinarily, if there were a piece on e6 right now, what Fritzlein, or what chessandgo would have done without hesitation would have been to advance the elephant to g7 and then push the rabbits from 4 and g5, push them both up north. But it doesn't work in this case because it would just take 3 steps. Well, I guess he could use could he push the cat to h7? No, that would just get his elephant in trouble, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that would work.
No. Yeah, chessandgo's just running out of room here. He doesn't want that cat to push. He wants to push forward, but then the cat will just take the rabbit on f6. I don't see anything. The only thing you could do to stop the cat is to push it to h7, but then that still doesn't work because his rabbit wouldn't be able to move to e6 without. Yeah, I think maybe Omar's move earlier was. We'll have to look at that later. Maybe that would have worked. I think chessandgo had some attacking options, but they're quickly coming to a halt here. Oh yeah.
I think on this move he might be considering moving that camel to like maybe d4, unfreezing the cat, moving it down, and putting the camel there just to get his camel onto the east wing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But I mean, that would leave his west wing completely vulnerable. and you know, if that, like that rabbit on d6 just flips over to the west wing, and it's just unstoppable, basically.
Yeah, but I think if he's going to try something, maybe that's a good idea, because if he would be threatening to capture the e4 dog on the next move, and then after that he could threaten to take the f5 horse. Yeah, that's pretty slow. It's worth thinking about. But yeah, he's just hit a standstill here. His gold elephant. Oh, I completely missed that. I totally overlooked the fact that he, some 37G, chessandgo has just acted his forces again. So all it would take is a couple of moves here to push the horse. Yeah, of course, sure. Earlier I was thinking that the horse might move over to the east side, but I forgot completely that the horse had a valuable role on the west side.
So this is also a situation where there's a false protection here, right? So that dog could be captured in f6 if Fritzlein wanted to. Do you think that would be worth it for him to do that?
Well, absolutely not, because then that would allow the horse to move from e5 to e6. He doesn't want that at all.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe chessandgo's trying to invite the false protection, hoping for a finish. And the other thing is he might be thinking, well, he can get his rabbit from c5 to c6 and hope for another miracle there. But no, that wouldn't work, of course, because then it's another false protection and the easy frame of the rabbit. So he's just, I think maybe he liked your other suggestion, which is to get the camel to the east side, and he found a sneaky way to get the camel to the east side with one extra delaying tactic where the silver pieces have to re-push the dog to east. Yeah, chessandgo knows that he had an attack going on the g-file. Now it's completely stopped. There's nothing he can do to that g5 rabbit any momentum, unless maybe he is thinking exactly what Omar said of getting the camel to the east side. And if he could push the camel to e4 and push the silver dog to f4, not only does it threaten the dog, but would also be it would be remobilizing that e5 horse. And that's really the key. I mean, I think what really stalled this attack for chessandgo is that the gold horse can't participate at all, and it's just the elephant trying to do it all by itself. But I still think here on 37S that Fritzlein has the much stronger chances. Obviously, I mean, gold's position's hanging by a thread, and the gold attack is halted along the g-file. So I think Fritzlein just has to be careful here. Steps obviously to push the dog to c8. I guess his real concern is what to do with those last two steps, right? Because he doesn't want the camel to remobilize the 5 horse. He doesn't want to lose his dog in the f3 trap within a threat against the f5 horse. So the first two moves seem pretty obvious here.
Wow, Fritzlein is actually getting a little bit low here on time.
Wow.
He just drags the dog over.
That's an interesting defense.
Yeah.
Because with the c5 rabbit unable to advance, yeah, that's a safe move, and he's obviously now it's like completely hopeless on the east side. Even if the camel somehow made its way to f4, I still don't think chessandgo has any chance at all.
Yeah, once that rabbit is captured in c6, that'll create a hole there for that e6 rabbit to move through.
Yeah, there's nothing at all that. I guess the only indirect way to save that rabbit is maybe to do what you suggested earlier, push the camel to f4, and then if by some miracle the horse can move to 6 on 39G and then the dog back to c7, that would avert disaster. But yeah, I think if you can't find a way to put the pressure on the silver position, his whole western side's going to fall apart very quickly. Very quickly. So he's going to push this dog to f4. It's kind of what you're expecting, right? Yeah. it's not a bad move, because he's now mobilized his horse on 5, and if the c5 rabbit isn't captured this turn, he's actually threatening to put the dog back on c7 and try to hold his whole position together. Could even try to get his horse to 6 and pray for some miracle c5 rabbit advance. That wouldn't work, but as long as he can keep that c5 rabbit alive. And then really his bigger threat, I think, if he wants to capture the f4 dog and the f5 horse, and then try and get his momentum going again on the northeast quadrant. So this is going to be a tough move here for Fritzlein. He's been defending very well. He could just play it simply, take the c5 rabbit right now.
So on this move, if Fritzlein just takes that c5 rabbit and even just moves his rabbit from d6 to c6, that could set up a, well, he did it a little bit differently, but
yeah. So now I think on 38S, I guess maybe he wanted to, that was a delaying tactic. He wants the silver rabbit to be taken here on the 39G. That gives him that one extra move before he loses the dog.
So would you want to capture this rabbit now with the cat?
Oh, I think he has to. Yeah, he was originally planning to, unless he can find a fast goal, but I don't think he will. Yeah, actually, maybe he could do that. Maybe he could take the dog and then pull the horse down to f4 on the same move. As part of the same order moves, he could drag that horse down to f4. Then how far can that rabbit get? Well, the rabbit could get to, it could make it over to a4, I suppose. And that does look pretty good. Yeah, that would be pretty tough, because then only...
Well, the cat would have to move to b3.
Yeah, but then that's the dog there on a2. I guess if he does take the dog and pulls the horse to f4, and then if the elephant moves to d5 and the rabbit goes to a4, could still... No, okay. Chessandgo fought for a minute 13, and then he just decided, I guess he had to take that silver rabbit. I was a bit surprised. I thought he might make a bold move to try to get back into this game quickly, but...
Well, I guess after the camel captures this horse, it opens up that A file, and I think that was probably why he moved the cat through C3, just to delay that rabbit once it comes down the A file.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Will that give him enough time to do something?
Well, I don't know.
It's going to be really tough to tell here, I think.
Well, yeah, Fritzlein's got a... I guess Fritzlein just took the horse on 39S, so now that's going to mobilize that A7 rabbit. Now, I guess he's inviting dog capture on F4, and let's see how fast that silver rabbit's obviously going to be coming down pretty quickly with the dog. A2, dog can move to B2, and the rabbit can reach A4 all in one move. Actually, I think even better is to move the rabbit on 40S. I guess he wants to move the rabbit to A5, dog to B2, and maybe the elephant to C4 just to block out that camel. And then it would only take a couple more moves to get that rabbit all the way down the A file. So I guess Fritzlein now is just inviting chessandgo to take all of his pieces. There's no way the gold attack's going to come fast enough on the G files, and that A7 rabbit seems almost unstoppable now. He doesn't even have to bother taking the B7 dog. The G6 elephant is just completely out of play. I don't know how it would be hard to get that G6 elephant even back into the play if it needed to.
So on this move, what if chessandgo captures the F4 dog and then moves the horse up, let's say, to E6? Do you think following turns you might be able to use that train of rabbits going through, or it might not be fast enough?
I don't think it would even be close. That A7 rabbit, I think, can score in 3 moves with very few defensive measures to stop it. I think that A7 rabbit is going to advance far, and the E4 rabbit, or the E3 rabbit just doesn't seem to have as many opportunities. But you might, well, he'll give it a shot. Let's see how. If that rabbit on D3 serves a double purpose, it's going to allow the I was seeing how far I could make it. I mean, if Fritzlein wants to be really safe here on move 40s, just move the camel to the D6 square as part of the capture, and then that blocks out the D file for the D3 rabbit. Right now, material-wise, it's still pretty close. I mean, chessandgo's lost 3 rabbits, Fritzlein's lost 2 rabbits, and then there's 1 gold horse removed, 1 silver bug removed. So the material advantage is only small for silver. It's really that A7 rabbit that's the game breaker. Well, and the position crumpling on the east side. But yeah, actually, I don't know what I was saying there, but silver is completely dominating. If he wants to just be really careful to make sure he doesn't lose the game, pull the dog through the trap, put the camel on D6. There's no way any gold pieces should be scoring. The F5 horse could be captured on 41G in that scenario, and then the 6 gold horse could be captured on 41S. And there's just, I don't see that working. So chessandgo might as well flip that F5 horse into the F3 trap now, and then, or unless he's going to try one last desperation counterattack. You see, because there's a piece on E6 here, you can actually now push that rabbit to G6. Actually, I think that's the better move. Why not try one last desperation counter try here? Push the elephant to G7, rabbit to G6. No, he didn't do it. I'm surprised. I thought he might push, because he could have advanced a rabbit all the way to G6 with another rabbit behind the G5. And that would have been a little tricky to stop. At least it would have put the pressure on.
So if silver captures the horse here, there is that possibility that gold could capture that F6 rabbit now.
That's right. So maybe he's just going to play it cautiously here. Maybe he'll use 2 to push the camel onto the E6 square. And he really should just be thinking about defense here. Like, if he wanted to be really, really careful, maybe put the camel on E6, move the cat, I don't know, maybe a rabbit on G8 and then a cat on H7 or something, just to really just try to stop that gold elephant. Because I thought on 41G there was actually a pretty good, pretty decent, the elephant could have made it to G7 with rabbits on G6 and G5, and then that looked at least somewhat intimidating. I'm a little surprised that he didn't play that. I think Fritzlein just has to be careful here on 41S. I might just blockade the G7 square, put the camel on 6, and then there's just no question at all that A7 rabbit's going to score eventually, as long as he plays carefully and doesn't allow any counterplay by gold here.
I'm totally amazed at how chessandgo has been able to come through this and not fall way behind materially. I mean, getting that camel over on the east and being able to do some captures of his own, while silver, did captures on the west. I mean, that was just unbelievable.
Well, that was your suggestion, moving the camel over to the east. So.
I thought that would have been too slow. Seriously though, I was thinking that would have been too slow. I didn't think that would work. But that one move that he did, where he didn't really shoot that camel over to the east right away, but instead moved that dog and rabbit around C6. That was pretty sneaky. I think that might have helped him. So he's gonna, I guess it's gonna. Fritzlein is gonna trade that horse for the rabbit on F6.
That's actually a pretty good move there. Getting a little late in the game for a counterattack, but at least he's got something to hope for now. So silver again. Fritzlein's now thinking on for his 42S. Maybe just move an elephant. Well, elephant to f5 seems like a very safe maneuver because, again, and then maybe elephant. This is tricky because you want to put the elephant on f5 and then maybe the camel on e6 because you don't want to allow that gold dog to get to f7. I also wouldn't want to get the elephant too many opportunities to move along the g file. Right now, with a cat on h6 and a horse on g7, there's still a good obstacles in the path of the g5 rabbit. Fritzlein just has to be careful. The only thing is, if it is necessary to, so the silver elephant moves to f5, so now the gold camel at least can avert disaster. Now, that a7 rabbit seemed imminently poised to advance earlier, but now gold can actually dominate the west side now. Maybe, I think it's time to try to get the gold elephant back into the play. So what's the material now? So it's just, the only difference between the two sides is that gold is down by a horse. Fritzlein's winning by that one horse advantage. Well, yeah, like Omar said, that's pretty impressive. It looked earlier like the entire gold position was going to collapse if the gold attack didn't work along the g file. And it sort of did. I mean, he's behind by one horse, but that's not as disastrous as I thought it might be.
So on this move, I'm kind of expecting gold to maybe push that horse to f6 and get the camel or get the elephant onto f7. Yeah, I was thinking the elephant on f7. That's a good move, moving that rabbit. Can distract. I was thinking the other thing you might do is move the dog from e7 to e8 if you wanted to hope for a swindle against the d6 camel that's just sitting there. That's not an available option now. So I think silver I think maybe move the cat to b6 to protect the camel, and then definitely push that rabbit down here. Now everything is safe. You know what? I don't think this game's over yet. I thought game would be over at this stage, but chessandgo maybe move the camel to e6 now, and then the elephant from f7 to e6. Try and threaten that camel. If he can eventually maybe, and then he would have an extra step. Maybe start moving the camel over towards that dog on a2. If he can ever capture that a2 dog, he would only be down a slight amount of material. He can recover his material position. Might be okay. I guess his other concern though is that there's a frame possibility around f6. If his elephant moves too far away from the f6 trap, he's going to start losing rabbits and himself into a bigger positional material hole. chessandgo it looked like he might be in a hopeless position earlier, but I think it's worth fighting for now. That was an interesting 44G. He's continuing to move rabbits forward. He's probably thinking of the philosophy that when you have advanced rabbits on one side, you often lure huge numbers of defenders to one side, and then if you can create a rabbit threat on the opposite side, then you can start to make a comeback. The other thing that the gold camel is now just one move away from freezing the gold dog on a2. And again, that would be huge if he chessandgo captured that dog. His material disadvantage would just be horse for dog. That would be it. So this looks like it could be a long game. I don't know if anybody picked Fritzlein in 60 for the spectator contest, but that might be the winning bid now. I think I put Fritzlein in 50, so I don't think I'm going to win this one anymore. Lines into a bit of a think on 44S. He's got those threats. He could put an I don't know what he wants to do with his dog. He might just bring his dog all the way up to a6 here. That would at least protect it over the long haul. I don't know how concerned he is about that rabbit on d4. Yeah, so Fritzlein's dog actually does seem kind of out of position, huh? Without having any advanced rabbits to create any kind of threats.
Right. I mean, the dog would love to go to the G3 square and fight that cat, I guess, but it's not going to make it there. I don't know if maybe it could make it there with the help of them. That's interesting. So I thought the dog might retreat. No, instead Fritzlein's going for his own attack. So he's threatening to frame a rabbit on the F6 square, and that's a very strong frame, so long as you never allow the rabbit to be freed via F5. So he could put his camel on F5, eventually rotate his elephant away. I don't know if that's a major threat, though. He might just be happy to leave the rabbit on G5 for the moment. That would be a little concern.
I was going to say, I'm kind of expecting that gold elephant to push its way up to E6 now.
Right, that's get it back into the play and then temporarily stop any rabbit frames. Yeah, that's not bad. On 44S, that rabbit advanced to A5, but as long as the camel's there, I guess that's just to build. He's just thinking of long-term pressure to keep maybe the camel down. That rabbit's not an immediate threat to advance.
Also, if that gold dog is able to get itself, say, onto the east side a little bit more, might be able to fight that cat on G6 better.
You're right, yeah. So Fritzlein, if he's worried about that, he might eventually move his horse over to G6 if he's really concerned about the dog. That's not a bad idea. So maybe what chessandgo could do here is move his dog to E8 and then push the horse to E5. No.
Doesn't even want to take a risk with that rabbit advancing at all on that side, huh?
Yeah, because at first it looked like it's no threat for an immediate advancement, but maybe with the elephant poised to jump into the action there, maybe he was worried that the dog was going to move to B2 and the rabbit to A3, which didn't seem to be an immediate concern except for the silver elephant could join in, so we only played it very safe. Now we get to see if Fritzlein really was thinking about any type of frame.
Yeah, this would be a perfect opportunity to do it if he is, huh?
Yeah, all he needed was a piece on H6 and he could have framed the E7 dog, but that wouldn't work, so framing the rabbit is dangerous on F6. I mean, you're pinning the elephant to F7 for the entire game unless piece can ever free that rabbit, in which case it becomes a serious goal threat. So finally might be weighing the pros and cons of framing the rabbit. I guess the real key is that G6 square. As long as, because if the rabbit got framed, he might be thinking about whether that dog can ever walk around to G. And maybe that's dangerous. I mean, it's not too dangerous, because if he flips the rabbit onto F6 and then the dog comes around, he can then use his elephant to flip the rabbit back from F6 to E5. That's not a huge dangerous threat, but maybe Fritzlein doesn't want to tie down his entire army to the frame here. Maybe he just wants to do something more active. Want to do interesting. Fritzlein just wants to put the pressure on the gold position. He must just be thinking that if he just keeps creating rabbit threats and then eventually brings in his elephant at a crucial moment. I think right now what he wants to do is just keep his elephant from immobilizing the F5 silver elephants, just keeping the G5 rabbit at bay. The elephant never moves away, the rabbit can move to F5, and then the elephant can move through the trap to E6 or something and maybe try to get an attack going. So maybe right now on 45S, Fritzlein's just saying that I'm going to keep advancing rabbits on the west side, and as soon as I get a serious threat with my rabbit, he's going to bring his elephant or his camel to, maybe the camel is safer, and just bring it along to help out. Maybe he's kind of inviting chessandgo here on 46G to pull the rabbit down to C5. I don't think he would, but I think he's thinking that if he does pull the rabbit down to C5, then you would see either the camel or the elephant jump into the action and go to B. And Fritzlein's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was thinking, what about the option of maybe using the camel to pull the cat out to b5.
Well, then that would leave the c2 rabbit exposed to the dog there.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. And that dog's a little sneaky there on a2. It's just been sitting there for a long time. And it doesn't eventually capture that c2 rabbit. You might even think of going to the east side to fight on the g3 square or something. Actually, that's kind of a slow plan. I think in these types of positions, you don't have that much time. Not usually, anyways, to move a dog all the way across the board just for a simple little cat push, especially with other gold defenders there to fight for it. I think Silver's looks like Fritzlein's just going to keep putting pressure with his his rabbits. Yeah, so 46G, the gold elephant is finally back in the play. I don't remember how long it's been, but it seems like about 10 moves now that gold elephant's been completely out of the action. And now it's finally rejoining. But I guess there are some threats. Frame the c6 rabbit, for example. If on the next move, chessandgo could push the camel to 5, put his own camel on c5 and his dog on c6, and that would frame the c6 rabbit. Now, sort of Fritzlein here on 46S has got to be a little careful. His camel is still mobile, so maybe, I don't know if he wants to put it on c7. Maybe that's what chessandgo really wanted on 46G. Maybe he wants to force that camel back into the 7th rank, and then maybe the gold camel could pull a rabbit from c6 to c5, and then with the silver camel a little bit out of the action, it would be easier to try something. The interesting thing, though, is that if the gold camel does at any point pull a silver rabbit onto c5, the gold dog could activate itself by moving to c2, maybe push that gold rabbit to c1, and it's safe from capture. It would protect itself and the c5 rabbit. So this is position. Fritzlein's his a2 dog is still a factor in this game. It's just a question now, facing that frame, what does he want to do? And is there anything stronger than a frame here? Well, I guess the problem with the frame is that you lose the c2 rabbit again. I forgot the same thing. So on 46S, all the silver pieces are beginning to migrate back to the west side. I guess gold elephant, if the fight can be shifted back to the west, the gold rabbits on the G file will be in big trouble. chessandgo's got an interesting decision here. I don't know what he can do with those rabbits. I mean, if he wants to put a rabbit on f5 and then pull the f7 rabbit onto f6 as like a temporary measure, he has no pieces in immediate threats. But the problem is that very soon there will be threats. So chessandgo not only has to worry about those rabbits, but worry about that dog on d7. The one thing chessandgo might do is, I don't know if he wants to just finally get that dog out of the way. The dog's kind of a nuisance on a2. He could think of putting his camel on b2 or a3.
What about maybe advancing that camel to c4 and then putting the rabbit from the camel from c4 to c5 and then putting the rabbit on c4 and then maybe pushing that camel back with the elephant?
Right.
So that it would a rabbit trade, but maybe that wouldn't be good because then those rabbits on the east wing could probably advance.
But you think the gold rabbits would advance if the...
No, I meant the silver rabbits would advance on the east wing.
Oh, right, okay. And the other danger, too, is that I think if the camel moved to c5 and the rabbit to c4, the silver camel was to push to d4, and the silver elephant can then... This camel can move to d4, and the silver elephant could reach c5. And I think that would be a camel trade, I guess. I don't know. chessandgo, I think, wants to avoid any possible trades, unless... I mean, he might go after the a2 dog if he thinks he can get it for free, but still behind by a horse, and he's still got a tough position. Yeah, I don't think he wants to pull he doesn't want to. He wants to avoid having the fight in the west and losing all his rabbits in the east, and having the silver rabbits as he pointed out too. This is tough.
So he is offering a rabbit trade right now.
So Fritzlein wouldn't mind. Can he get a double rabbit trade? No, he couldn't.
Well, cat captures that rabbit and then moves to f4. Oh, but yeah, you're right. Then he'd probably lose. Silver would capture the cat, or I mean, go and capture that cat.
You're right, yeah. So, yeah. Fritzlein wants to just keep the position safe. I mean, his mantra in his positions is just to keep his elephant near the opponent elephant. He might just think he has he might just put his horse on f5 and his camel on 5, thinking that he's got a safe position. He doesn't want to rock the boat any. No, but then he doesn't want. I don't think he wants to just leave his camel on c5 because he'd be. Every time I look at a variation, I forget that the a2 dog can. Every time I think of moving the camel out of the way, the dog's going to jump onto c2. Fritzlein's really. It's got that's a sneaky dog there on a2. It's always causing problems.
Yeah, also if that dog was to get over to the east side, that would be, I think, a serious problem.
Right, if it could get to g4, that's a strong square. So far, it hasn't really had many opportunities to move. Maybe if Silver wants to play really safe, just put the camel maybe on c5 and the elephant on d5. First move the horse to f6 before the elephant moves over. I think it's the horse. Well, it's kind of similar. I thought the camel on c5, elephant on d5, but then I was thinking of trying to use the horse more, but actually that's a very strong goal threat there. And now there's all kinds of problems for Silver on the east side. Gold on the east side, sorry. No problems at all for Silver. I think Fritzlein's made a really good defensive move there. The c5 camel is very well positioned. There's a goal threat, not a goal in one, but obviously if that rabbit reaches e2 with a dog and a horse kind of available to jump into the action, that'd be very, very strong. Chessandgo here, at the very least, I think he has to move his rabbit from d4 to e4. That's one mandatory move. I guess he's got to save his rabbit, so going to move his dog. Maybe if he moves the rabbit from d4 to e4, I'm trying to think. There's so many things he wants to do. He maybe wants to get the camel to challenge the a2 dog. He wants to plug up the e4 square. He wants to get it. If his elephant moves to 6, he wants to block up the f6, protect the f6 trap. And he wants to send his dog to safety, maybe run into a7. So prioritizing, I guess, the most important thing. Maybe moving the rabbit from d4 to e4, dog to a7, elephant from d6 to e6. I think that way you've kind of maximized all the most important measures. That was interesting. So instead of running to a7 with the dog, he's just going to b7, knowing that it would take that extra move for Silver to put his own rabbit on c6, and then another move to get the rabbit to c5. So Silver here, Fritzlein could threaten the dog again by putting his camel on c7, rabbit on d7. But, I guess another threat by Chessandgo here is that he's threatening to pull the rabbit from f5 to e5 with his own rabbit on f5. Oh, but then that would be dangerous because it's only slightly dangerous. So of course that from e5, that rabbit becomes another threat, but it seems okay. What do you think here, Omar?
Actually, that move looks rather strong, right? I mean,
Silver camel to c7?
No, pulling the rabbit to e6 and moving his own or e5 and moving his own rabbit to f5.
That was my suggestion on 49G, but has 48S been played yet? I don't see a 48S yet.
No, 48S hasn't been played yet.
Oh, okay, right. So,
yeah.
So I was thinking, yeah, if the camel moves to c7, okay, yeah, now this is the point where I would, now this is the earlier suggestion. I now play the rabbit to f5.
Yeah, actually, that looks a bit strong, actually.
Well, but silver does have the option of putting a piece on f7, so it's defensible. And maybe that isn't the best move because it can be stopped. Well, maybe a better idea is use. No, that wouldn't work either. Try to think, because the problem is that it does get the rabbit to f5, and then silver blocks up the f7 square. There's nothing left to do. Yeah, I guess the other option is he could push a rabbit from f5 to f4. No, that's not a good move at all. Lose the dog, and it's too slow.
Yeah, it's looking pretty tough here now for gold, I think.
Yeah, he's already down by a horse. Only got 11 seconds in reserve, and he's going to lose that dog. Well, he's going to lose either a dog or a rabbit. He might be looking for a tactical trick to save both. No, okay, he's just doing that. Okay, so this is now I think the final last-ditch effort. Could theoretically just freeze that rabbit on. Could put his g7 rabbit on f7 with the idea of framing the f6 rabbit, but that would be extremely dangerous because then a gold rabbit would move to f5. Fritzlein, I think maybe just 2 steps to put a piece on f7, make his horse on f7. Even put his elephant on d4, because that would be threatening to spring the 5 rabbit. He would also immobilize the c4 camel.
Yeah, I think also threaten the camel as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just put the horse on f7 and the elephant on d4 for that multi-purpose. Yeah, you're right. That's a pretty strong move. Yeah. If I don't think chessandgo would have time, but his absolute last-ditch effort would be to put his cat on h4, move the rabbit to g4, pull the silver rabbit down, and try and get a rabbit up the h-file. But I think that's going to be way too slow. I think if the f7 square gets blocked up, I don't think there's enough time left for gold, because that e5 rabbit's going to become a major problem, and too many problems in the golden position.
Yeah, he kind of did what you suggested here, except that final move, he also moved the cat over.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty safe move, just reinforcing the east side. But I don't think there's anything left for gold to do. I would think of just sacrificing the camel here. I would put the cat on h4, rabbit on g4, and then try and pull a miracle gold rabbit up the h-file. Wow, look at the reserve. We're on move 50G here. 25 seconds left for chessandgo, 28 seconds left for Fritzlein. It's been quite a battle. Yeah, I don't see, unless maybe chessandgo is going to just try putting his rabbit on f6 and his cat on f5, and just try one last direct attempt up the f-file. I was thinking of trying to pull the h-rabbit down, but that's way too slow. That would never work, especially since it would leave the e-file vulnerable to the cat. I think maybe the problem is that he could try to get his rabbit to f6 with the cat on f5, but then there's still that threat. The elephant could bring the e5 rabbit down to e3. No, that wouldn't work. Well, I think that's okay. I think his best shot here, he's down into his reserve under 24 seconds on 50G. I think his best attempt is still to try to get the cat to f5 and the rabbit to f6. I mean, well, actually, that's even better. On 50G, he's put the cat on g5, the rabbit on f5, and now that way he can spring the h4 rabbit to h6 if necessary. That's actually a better move than what I was suggesting. Well, the only difference, though, is I noticed is that now if he advances the rabbit to e3, it's even stronger than it was before. See, I was thinking that if the cat was on f5 and the silver rabbit springs to e3 on 50s, then the cat would try to come down to capture that rabbit. But now, I don't know how dangerous, how many Fritzlein wants to gamble here, but I think it looks pretty good to just... No, that wouldn't work, right? You can't get the rabbit to e3 because then the camel would come over and take it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably the safest thing.
Yeah. Chess and Go can either try and get his h4 rabbit to h6. Kind of the idea there. Well, that doesn't work because rabbit at d7 would just go to h7. But maybe push the elephant. Maybe push the elephant to e7. Put a rabbit on. But he could do a few things. He can move his elephant to d6, rabbit to I. No, that doesn't work. He has to keep his elephant on. Yeah, if his elephant leaves the e6 square, that e5 rabbit jumps to life. Well, I guess he could use his cat. No, I was thinking move the elephant to d6, rabbit then move the two rabbits like f6 to e6, f5 to f6, and then cat from g5 to f5 to try and freeze that e5 rabbit. But then the h5 rabbit would spring to life and go down to g2, so that doesn't work. So if he wants to do something active here, and yet if the e6 elephant moves, the e5 rabbit can come to life, and if the g5 rabbit tries to stop that rabbit, then the h5 rabbit comes to life. So let's see how we can stop everything. Okay, so I guess that's the best simple thing to do. He's getting the rabbit to h6. Now that can be stopped with a rabbit to h7. But at least then... I think maybe his thought is, well, he still has the e5 rabbit frozen. He still has the g5 rabbit under control for the time being. So on 51s, Fritzlein could put a rabbit on g7, put it on h7. And he's going to be worried that maybe that gold elephant will try and do something on 52g. I don't know what's available.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of maybe the cat pushing the rabbit back and then advancing the rabbit on the g file.
Sorry, the gold cat would pull the g5?
No, it's the silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Rather than blocking the way. But well, I'm kind of surprised to see Fritzlein bringing the elephant back.
He might be thinking that he wants to put that elephant on f7 or something. Maybe he's just trying to be really, really, really careful here.
Yeah.
Well, I think the gold has nothing better here than to try and flip the 5 rabbit to f4 and then take it on the next move. He would lose the... I don't know if he can do anything active here, because if he tries to play actively, that e5 rabbit, like if his elephant does anything at all, the e5 rabbit springs to life. But the thing is, even if he pulls that g5 rabbit out of the way and captures it, it doesn't really give him any opportunity. Well, I guess the only advantage would be then that he could put the cat on f4 and then give some opportunities for his elephant to advance without worry about the e5 rabbit, if the cat can eventually get to f4. So I think that's the best chance here.
But that kind of seems kind of long, because that rabbit on c7 now is, I think, really well poised to take off.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. That's the other. Yeah, that's a good move by Fritzlein on 51s. That's probably what he was really thinking with his elephant on d7.
Yeah. Now I understand why he brought it back.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was just thinking of desperation tries by gold, but of course, gold attack is like borderline hopeless now. I mean, so chess and go did a little of both. Now maybe it's the time to put a rabbit from a6, go down to a4, and then put the dog on b3 here on move 52s. Because Or should he try multiple? Maybe just multiple threats would be good enough here. Maybe put the rabbit from A7 to A6 to A4, and then put the rabbit from C7 to C5. And maybe just build multiple threats simultaneously, I think. There's no way a single cat would... The only question is whether maybe he wants to immobilize the cat first. Maybe move the C5 rabbit to A7 rabbit to C5 and then use 2 steps to immobilize the cat with his dog. I guess, yeah. Or I guess in that case, just put the A6 rabbit on A4, dog on B3. What my first instinct was.
Yeah, I think that's getting either of those rabbits active and freezing the cat. Oh, he captures the rabbit instead. I guess he decided to capture a rabbit.
That was a very cautious move. I thought he could have played a little faster. Now, the silver dog also has the option of going to the east side, but I don't think that's necessary anymore. I think all he's really just got a 2-move goal threat. If the silver dog can push the cat east to C4 on move 53S, then there's really nothing at all stopping ace A5 rabbit. Chessandgo, guess, I don't know uses 2 steps to push the rabbit to F4 and then puts his cat on A4. That might slow it down, but then the rabbit just comes straight down the C file. Yeah, that's tricky because if the cat moves to the A file, the rabbit just comes straight down the C file. It can go all the way from C7 to C3. That would be unstoppable there. So the only question is goal in 2, goal in 3. Probably goal in 3, I would think. Goal might be able to survive to move 55 here.
I think so. Yeah, probably at least 55.
Wow, Fritzlein's got to be really happy now. I mean, he's for a long time he's been a little. I don't know if he's been intimidated by chessandgo or just a little frustrated that he's been losing so many games. But his losing streak's going to come to an end here. It looks pretty much impossible for gold to make any progress. I think on 53S here, I would just move the C7 rabbit all the way down to C3. That looks like gold in 2. I think that would be a 54 movement if the rabbit comes to C3 because, oh no, then the cat would pull it back up to C4, wouldn't it? But so maybe you should move the cat to move the rabbit instead of moving it to C3, move it to D4. That way, if the cat, same problem. You would just pull it to C4, wouldn't it? So I guess it's going to take until move 55. Move 55.
Yeah, looks like Fritzlein's been saving his real ammunition for the final games, huh?
Yeah. I have a feeling he's been experimenting with more aggressive openings, and he's been a little pointed in his results against chessandgo, so I have a feeling he's going to try something bold and original in the opening today, and he did, and it worked. Now we're all going to have to look at this game and decide if this is going to become a new fad in Arimaa opening, or maybe if there's a good solid defense. We're going to have to ask the players just about those first few moves. It seems that most of the game chessandgo has been on the disadvantage, and it started very early, so maybe they had other ideas for what could have been done in the opening. It was very exciting. I really like the fact that Fritzlein tried something new, got an exciting opening right from the start. His longtime nemesis.
Yeah, like you said, I'm sure he's very happy about this game. He hasn't been able to win for a while against chessandgo, and now suddenly, he has this really strong game against him. This isn't as dangerous as it looks, right?
Oh no, I doubt it. It's a good last-minute try, but with a cat on F8 and an elephant on F7, there should be no real risk. Fritzlein might just play it really cautiously, though. He might put a rabbit on D6 elephant on E7, cat on F8. Really, well, or just, I don't know how cautiously he has to play this here. Like, if he just puts a rabbit on 4 from E5 to D4 and then just puts a cat on F8 and elephant on E7, there's really no major concern.
But chessandgo is really fighting it to the end now.
Yeah. I would have probably left the elephant on E7, but still shouldn't be a problem, should it? Let's see here. The gold elephant can reach F8, put rabbits on F7 and F6. Still shouldn't be.
But just pulling that F7 rabbit would probably end it. Like if the horse pulled that F7 rabbit. Or no, maybe not.
No, actually, you know what? If the F5 rabbit moves to F6, then the E5 rabbit can mobilize the F4 rabbit and win immediately. The F5 rabbit can't move. So he's going to have to try and win this by putting a single rabbit on F7, but then that rabbit would just get pushed down to F6. So it doesn't look like it'll work. Yeah, well, try to create a double threat. No, that wouldn't work.
Wow, that's interesting.
I didn't see that. That's not going to win it. No, the problem is the F5 rabbit still is stuck in place. So I think all he has to do is push the elephant to D7, push the gold rabbit to D6, and well, then the problem is the cat would be captured in the next move, isn't it? And it's still okay. It's still okay for silver. This is a little bit of a last minute.
Very scary, but no.
Yeah, it's funny. Chessandgo for about 20 moves has had those rabbits in position to attack, and then just finally, right at the very end, he's building something strong. But I think if the elephant goes to D7, the rabbit on D6, the rabbit on F5 can't immediately advance, and then it can be frozen by the horse on the next move on F5, and there's still so many silver rabbits. This is still a win for Fritzlein. It's just a little bit dangerous, a little bit scary. He was probably hoping to win in a slightly more So gold is one move from victory here. He's 5 steps away from victory, whereas Fritzlein's got a 4-move victory attack down the D file. But I think the only thing...
Yeah, I don't think it's stoppable now.
No, it's not. Actually, that was a good defense there by Fritzlein. Mine was a little too slow. Fritzlein found a way to delay the gold attack for... gold's 5 moves from victory and silver's 4 steps from victory, and there's no way, I think, for gold to stop this. That was very interesting, those last few moves. Just as I was congratulating Fritzlein on his victory, the ending got really exciting. Well, I guess not too exciting. I think Chessandgo knew he was going to win, but yeah, he sure made it interesting. Yeah, Fritzlein found a really good 55S there. That was a really creative way to slow down Chessandgo concedes victory. So what a game. That's one of the best, one of the most entertaining games of the tournament for sure.
Yeah, this is...
all kinds of things.
Yeah, this has definitely been, I think, one of the best games I've seen. Very exciting.
So yeah, it was a great early, I'm getting echoes here, great early offensive, I think just the whole philosophy by Fritzlein got him off to a good start, just trying something new against a player he had been struggling against, getting a great opening attack. All those hostages early on kind of forced Chessandgo into a desperate counterattack on the G file. When that failed, Chessandgo still did great to fight against what looked like it would be a collapse in position. He was only down a horse for a long time, so he did hold his position together pretty well. He continued to fight, but I think Fritzlein had the advantage through most of the game. Do we have the players in the chat room here? Oh, I see chess and go. You don't see Fritzlein yet? Hello, John?
Guys.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Well, so, yeah, right from the earliest moves 3 and 4, you put a lot of thought in. Like, what was going through your mind? Were you surprised at how aggressively Fritzlein played, and did you like your opening positions?
No, I didn't like it at all. I had not realized he could attack on the east, while I had not much going on the west. So no, I think I was in bad shape, and didn't realize it could happen.
Do you think maybe on 3G had to put a horse on G3?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Didn't realize that at the time, but the fight does not look good for me actually. So I don't know. I think I will be using the EH8 setup for the next games. I have no idea to play against this setup as gold.
Right. And now on 12G, we thought maybe you looked like your camel was going to safety. Like if you look right after 11S, the camel was pushed from C5 to E5, and then we thought maybe you might want to get your camel back down to the F3 square. Did you just not think that would be a good hostage situation there, or did you want your camel on the west side?
Yeah, I thought about it, but I think that Silver's elephant is going to follow my camel. It looks to me like Silver will have an attack around S3, which is quicker than my own attack around C6, but I may be wrong about that. I don't know. It felt like with an elephant and 2 horses, Silver had a quick attack, and Silver's dog on B5 is a huge help for Silver in the C6 fight.
And then one other move that Omar brought up, I'll see if I can find that. 35. I think on 35G, he was thinking maybe you might pull the, after 34S, the elephant was coming over to your side, and then on 35G, it looked like your horse could, if your elephant pulled the F7 rabbit to E7, your gold horse could reach the F6 square. Had you considered that? It looked like maybe that might be your best attacking chance.
Yeah, that looks good. Much better than what I had played. Yeah, I think 35G was terrible, but maybe I'm lost already. I don't know, but indeed that looks much better. Maybe I still have some chances there.
Okay, so I see Fritzlein's in the room. Congratulations. That was quite the upset.
Thank you.
Not really.
Well, I know that you two are very close in rating, but it had been a long winning streak for Jean, and Fritz came back with just a huge victory. Had you been planning that surprise opening for a while there?
No, I only thought of it last night, and I have to give the assist to Skonibulus. If you look in my game record, the last game before I played this one was against Skonibulus, and he set up with the elephant behind the trap. And, he was unaware that Blue 22 had ever done, and so we chatted about it a little bit, and I let him know that Blue 22 had done that in the past. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but then last night, as I was just in despair about the opening, not really knowing what to do about Jean's plan of a quick attack against my camel. When I did the unbalanced setup, I think the attack against the camel was quite strong, but I realized that I gained 2 steps by shifting my elephant over by 2 columns. So my attack is 2 steps faster than it would have been if I don't do that elephant shift. And so I was sitting on pins and needles in the chat room when Jean said that he was going to try something other than the 99 of 9 setup, because I was prepared for only the 99 of 9 setup.
It was interesting because I was pretty sure that one of the 2 players today was going to try an innovative opening, and Chess and Go said that, but then I thought, well, maybe he's just playing mind games. But it was great to see such an exciting opening. Did you feel you had control of the opening the whole way, or at some point were you concerned that the advantage was slipping away from you?
Oh, definitely. I thought the advantage had slipped away. I was very pleased with the opening, but I have beaten Jean in the openings many times, only to be outplayed in the middle game and the end game. So I did not count my opening advantage. I mean, it was a nice position. I was very happy to get that horse hostage, but I didn't think that I was home free by any means. And then it seemed that I underestimated the power of pulling a rabbit into the trap. When this dog jumped in to pull a rabbit into the trap where my camel was holding the horse hostage, and I saw that happen. I was permitting that to happen. I wasn't worried that that would happen. I didn't know how powerful it was. And once the two dogs came around my camel trap, I thought I might even be losing. I certainly didn't feel winning anymore. And I don't know if you already discussed this before I logged in, but getting that rabbit made me feel a lot better, and I wasn't sure whether that was an intentional sacrifice, playing for control, or whether that was a blunder by Jean. But I didn't hesitate to take the rabbit.
No, that was a blunder. I had realized that you could take my rabbit, say after 1 or 2 minutes of thought, and I forgot. I had forgotten them.
Oh, so that's what comes of thinking for too long. The longer you think, the more you forget what you already knew.
Yes, that's quite right.
But until then, so before that rabbit blunder, I thought I had lost all of my advantage. I thought I was, in fact, maybe a little bit behind. I felt better again getting that rabbit, and that kept my spirits up. But it was a very tough fight beyond then, and I did not feel comfortable, actually, ever.
Well, that was, so you're discussing move 22 here, but it was, I thought move 22 was kind of a tricky one because it took 2 steps for the dog to take the c7 square, but then it also took two squares to protect the, 2 steps to protect the e5 cat from being pushed into f5, and that didn't leave a step for the rabbit to be protected on c3. So if the horse had occupied the f5 square, I thought that was a little dangerous too. So I don't know what would have been a better 22G that didn't leave all those pieces hanging.
Well, the 22G that I anticipated was to move the rabbit. Oh, I'm looking at the board upside down still, but I think it would be c3 to c4 if I get it turned around. So put a rabbit behind the dog, which defends the rabbit. Defends the rabbit and defends the dog. And then save the cat with some other steps.
Yeah, because if the elephant, oh okay, I guess the elephant could have just pushed the dog onto no, it couldn't have done that. I was thinking because if the elephant pushes the dog onto the f6 trap and then walks back to d6, they'll have the f5 cat hanging, and if the elephant stays on e6, the dog's going to be pushed into c6. I think if he wants to save everything, he has to put the dog on c7, horse on f5, and then the rabbit on c4. But then the horse needs a little area set on f5, unless there's a better way.
Gosh, my mind is absolutely fried. I finished talking, and I have no idea. I'm looking at the position, and I can't even think.
Well,
the game was so exhausting.
Well, I can imagine, yeah.
Well, congratulations to you, Karl, and great fight there, Jean. We thought, you might have had some chances there with that column of rabbits on the G file, but Karl, I think, played it very safe and closed up any possible holes. So, anyways,
I wasn't even feeling safe after having lost the camel. After having taken the camel, I took the camel and thought, I think my elephant can get back there in time to stop the goal. But I didn't know. I thought maybe taking the camel was the losing move. So I just feel lucky that I survived that endgame.
And Jean did a lot of what looked like strange moves to us towards the end there, and created a lot of threats. although they were stoppable. But it looked pretty spectacular, though.
Did anybody with a bot look at that endgame and see if there was a missed goal, forced goal there at the end?
I think as early as on 40, maybe on move, I don't know, maybe 40, you could try to advance an A rabbit and go for the goal attack against my single cat. I think on several moves you could have got a very strong goal attack, maybe unstoppable, I don't know.
Yeah, it was probably the better play.
On move 40, I think I announced that it was goal on 4 or something. I can't remember. I was way off. Well, no, but I was probably wrong because the camel could still come to the west. But yeah, I was expecting on 40, yes, I was expecting the dog to move to B2 and the rabbit to A5 and the elephant to C4 or something. But yeah, I can understand why Fritzlein played it more cautiously because we were threatened to lose that F5 horse, and there was still some plays. So
I have a serious problem in that whenever I have a material advantage, I don't want to contemplate a line that could lose me that material advantage. So if we had been in that position on move 40G, if I had been behind by a horse, I would have played the goal attack in the blink of an eye. I was handicapped by having extra material that I didn't want to lose my material advantage.
Well, you did play very carefully. You know, I guess it's better to be safe and secure. And although I guess, did you get nervous a little at the end there? Like,
absolutely, I don't feel that I was playing safe and secure at all. The fact that I didn't go for it right then, I should just know that if I don't go for the win when I have an opportunity to go for the win, then I will be sweating it later. That's just to keep everything under control against John. And so when I see a good race like that, like was there on 40G, and I did see even advancing, at first I thought moving the dog to B2 and the rabbit forward 3, and then I even saw that moving the rabbit forward 2 plus the elephant forward to block off defenders is potentially even stronger. And so I don't know why I didn't do it. I looked at it, it looked good, but I was just too afraid. And that clearly I had the game more in control at that point than I had later on. So I really should have gone for it.
Great. And the other thing that surprised us in the game is I thought that if the G attack failed around move 37 or 38, I thought that Silver would be ahead by about 3 or 4 pieces because there were just so many hanging hostages in the northwest. Were you surprised that Sean was able to keep the material position so close?
Well, I actually saw the camel crossing and saw sort of what was going to happen ahead of time. I can only take one piece at a time, even if I have 4 hostages, because I'm limited to 1 capture per turn.
Right. Well, congratulations on a very exciting victory. I guess I'll be meeting you next week.
I look forward to it. It's a great game, John.
Thanks, Didier.
Well, I guess it's time to thank our sponsors, Z-Man Games and Board Games for Us, and definitely to the players for putting on such a great game today. And let's also thank our spectators for coming out to watch the game. And thank you very much, Greg, for commentating as well.
Right, and we had Eric commentating earlier. I think he jumped over to the J.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
What are the other games still in progress? Because I guess we'll watch that one now. Okay, thanks everyone.
We're off the air.